Font. Big middle small previous index next add bookmarks however. Before that chi could completely explode, that feeling disappeared from Yemo opened his eyes with dissatisfaction. He knew that he didn't have enough foundation and couldn't completely learn this time samsara god art. He only learned less than half. It was due to his own cultivation level that he couldn't keep learning it. Who knew when he would have such enlightenment next time? Yemo dashed out of the golden page world and looked at Shadowless. Have I been in solitary cultivation for more than half a year? Boss. It's almost a year, but don't worry, even if we run for another year that guy wouldn't be able to catch up to us. Shadowless gloated. Yemo slapped over, my power has recovered. Do we need to run for another year? It's just a Tao nourishment divine emperor. I can even beat a Tao actualization divine emperor. Yes. It's that guy's misfortune that he chased after boss. Shadowless waved his tail, boss. When are we going after that Hun Tian Pandragon fruit? I heard Small Ginseng say that thing is the best for making wine. Cho Rang and Small Ginseng said it many times, so I had to come ask boss. After things here are done, we'll go. Yemo knew that Shadowless desperately wanted to increase his power. Yemo let Shadowless go into the golden page world and slowed the space-time boat down. If it wasn't for the chaos tree, Truth Divine Emperor would have long stopped chasing. But thinking about the chaos tree, Truth Divine Emperor was on fire. He wasn't going to stop even if he chased for decades or a century. He had changed his mindset. He was in no rush to catch up to Yemo. He was going to get close to it slowly. After a year, he found that he was getting closer. If he continued at this pace, in just 10 years he could catch up. And he knew it might even be less than 10 years, as the space-time boat probably burned a huge number of immortal crystals. Just when he set his mind, he found that the space-time boat slowed. Truth Divine Emperor was confused for a moment and just rejoiced. He thought he would need to chase for a decade, but in just a year, that guy couldn't keep running. At this moment, he sped up. A huge planet appeared in Yemo's spirit sense, and he was planning to go there to battle. Regardless if this planet had life, Yemo stopped and stood on an asteroid that flew over. Half a minute later, Truth Divine Emperor appeared before Yemo. Ha ha ha, I finally caught up to you. Kid, give me the chaos tree. The Emperor shall give you a quick death. Truth Divine Emperor laughed. Yemo looked calmly at Truth Divine Emperor. We can discuss that later. Tell me how you came from the immortal realm to the cultivation realm. I used a lot of means to come from over there. It seems I overestimated you. I thought you were a divine emperor, but you're a mere immortal emperor. You can cross to the cultivation realm and not have your cultivation level restricted. That's very amazing. If I'm not wrong, you probably mastered a law. Truth Divine Emperor calmed down and praised Yemo. Yemo didn't answer. He was waiting for Truth Divine Emperor to answer him. Even an immortal emperor who mastered a law can't completely hide the chaos world unless you're the chaos tree's master, or you have a Woolard with all 5 elements, or you have a chaos world. Truth Divine Emperor's eyes shot out with beam. Before Divine Tao rebirth, he had the best things amongst the divine emperors in the immortal realm, but even he didn't have chaos world. You talk a lot of useless shit. I asked how you came down from the immortal realm. Yemo really couldn't contain himself anymore. If it wasn't that he wanted to know how this divine emperor came down from the immortal realm, he would have attacked already. Immortal realm? Haha. Truth Divine Emperor laughed. For the immortal realm, I burned my life and immortal essence to kill that divine Tao powerful being, who came, but the sly bunch in the immortal realm ambushed me. I should be grateful to them. If they didn't break the immortal realm barrier together, I wouldn't be able to charge out of the immortal realm with me essence spirit. Yemo immediately realized who this person was and asked, so you're Truth Divine Emperor, the #1 divine emperor of the immortal realm? That's right. I'm Truth Divine Emperor. Truth Divine Emperor said pridefully. Yemo came from the immortal realm. It wasn't strange that Yemo knew his name. Then he glanced at Yemo. I'm amazed that a mere immortal emperor like you can come to the cultivation realm and ignore the world law suppression. If the world law couldn't suppress a powerful being, then the world law may cripple at any time. But if the suppression worked, then even the most powerful being would have to be suppressed in the cultivation realm. You body and essence spirit was destroyed, but you completely recovered? Emo asked in shock. He was amazed that Truth Divine Emperor didn't lose any power after reviving. Truth Divine Emperor said coldly, "If you think that the ghost spirit ships are my true soul, then stop. I was hunted by those sly bunch. Would I leave my essence spirit in the immortal realm? If it wasn't for the divine Tao realm powerful being battle, even if a few divine emperors attacked me, the immortal realm barrier might not be broken. I can only say that the heavens didn't want me to die. As soon as I rebirthed, I sensed my immortal carnage tower. After I take the chaos tree, I'll go back and key my tower." You felt the immortal carnage tower in the immortal realm? Emo was suddenly sweating cold. He had known from Su Jingwen that the tower was in Yemo's hands. If Truth Divine Emperor sensed it in the immortal realm, it meant that Yemo had ascended. If the Truth Divine Emperor wasn't drawn over by the chaos tree, then Emo didn't dare to keep imagining. "Hand it over. Don't force me to attack, or you would have even get a chance to go into samsara." Truth Divine Emperor stared at Emo sighed. "I was thinking about letting you live, but there's no need now." "Die? You're asking to die?" Truth Divine Emperor didn't expect he talked for so long, but this immortal emperor was just playing with him. He wasn't going to tolerate this and grabbed at Emo with his hand. An immortal emperor was no different to an insect to him. But just when he lifted his hand, he felt this terror coming from his soul. A powerful murderous chi broke his Tao nourishment Divine Emperor domain and locked onto his soul and body. His body was reborn, but he couldn't find any way out of that powerful lethal force. Golden Bow of Divine Extermination. Truth Divine Emperor recognized it when he saw Emo draw the bow at him. In that instant, Truth Divine Emperor didn't think about running away. He knew better than anyone the terror of the Golden Bow of Divine Extermination. It would be idiotic to run away in front of the Golden Bow of Divine Extermination. Truth Divine Emperor was shaking with cold, but he didn't think he lost. First, Emo was just an immortal emperor. Even if an immortal emperor had the Golden Bow of Divine Extermination, he wouldn't be able to release most of instant second power. Second, it was uncertain how many arrows Emo had. Truth Divine Emperor didn't speak and stretched his domain out like crazy. He was going to use his domain to crush Yemo's domain and then deal with the bone arrows. But soon Truth Divine Emperor found something was wrong. His domain clashed with Yemo's dun, and it was like mud entering an ocean. Suddenly, Yemo's domain increased in power. The powerful charge from domain shaked his domain. Truth Divine Emperor was shocked. He knew clearly now that Emo wasn't an immortal emperor but was a divine emperor who wasn't any weaker than him. A faint golden mark swiped across their domains and smashed towards Truth Divine Emperor. This area of void fell bleak and lifeless. A terrifying mark was left in the void by this arrow. Void wind blades flew out of the marks and hit their Divine Emperor domains before turning into nothing. Splurge. Blood mist exploded. Truth Divine Emperor's arm that stopped the bone arrow was completely pulverized. Truth Divine Emperor used this opportunity to charge into the void fissure created by the golden bone arrow. Using his experience, he felt Yemo's cultivation level and knew that even without the golden bow of divine extermination, he might not be able to beat Emo. He was already thinking about how to get away now. The void fissure created Bytia arrow was where he was going to flee. After Emo vindicated Tao, he had been fighting in the God Necropolis domain. The God Necropolis domain space was very stable, and even if a Tao actualization Divine Emperor attacked with full power, it couldn't create void fissures. He didn't expect this many void fissures would be created in the cultivation realm void with one arrow. He didn't expect even more that Truth Divine Emperor would sacrifice an arm to flee. The instant Truth Divine Emperor fled, Emo knew that he wasn't as experienced as Truth Divine Emperor, and he knew the terror of Truth Divine Emperor. His golden bone arrow was spirit controlled to the 99th level restriction, but Truth Divine Emperor could block one arrow with his arm. If Truth Divine Emperor gathered his magic artifact, then 6 arrows that weren't completely controlled really might not be able to kill him. One couldn't flee against the bone arrow, but after the first shot was made and the second arrow wasn't readied, you could escape to another realm if you were capable. These thoughts flashed in an instant, and Emo grabbed his bone arrow and charged into the void. Truth Divine Emperor knew Yi-Mo chased, but there was nothing he could do. He knew he was too careless. How could someone who got the Chaos Tree be simple? The reason Yi-Mo fled before was probably because he was injured too. The only thing he could do now was keep tearing space before Yi-Mo's golden bone arrow locked onto him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to escape even if he reached Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. Plus, he didn't have any magic artifacts on him. Yi-Mo didn't even release Space-Time Boat and just kept hunting Truth Divine Emperor. He wouldn't allow Truth Divine Emperor to escape or Yi-Mo would be in danger. Truth Divine Emperor really wanted to know why Yi-Mo hunted him this crazily. Even if he was scared that news of the Chaos Tree had spilled, Yi-Mo shouldn't chase him. The news was already leaked. He was certain he wasn't the only one who sensed the Chaos Tree. There were void fissures, storms and wind blades between the voids, but Yi-Mo and Truth Divine Emperor pretty much ignored these. It was like a tickle to them. When Yi-Mo's golden bow of divine extermination locked onto Truth Divine Emperor had to stop again. 3 golden beams shot out. These 3 golden arrows didn't create void fissures again. Truth Divine Emperor knew that Yi-Mo learned from his past mistake. Since Yi-Mo could control the bone arrow to not damage the nearby void, Truth Divine Emperor knew that Yi-Mo's power was subtly higher than his. He was very shocked and didn't understand things. He knew his cultivation level. Before Divine Tao Rebirth, he wouldn't dare to say he was invincible amongst peers, but after that, his body and power were many times stronger. Yet Yi-Mo was on par with him. Just what cultivation method was Yi-Mo using? Someone slightly stronger than him and pointed the golden bow of divine extermination at him, who had no defense magic artifacts. How could the Truth Divine Emperor not know he was in extreme danger today? Feeling the terrifying destruction chi around him, Truth Divine Emperor roared and divine golden rings spread out from his body, forming ripples. As these ripples expanded, Truth Divine Emperor's face rapidly aged. He had to fight with his life now. The first arrow smashed on the ripple and the ripple instantly exploded. The destructive chi of the first arrow was mitigated. Rumble, rumble. The second and third arrow struck the 2 later ripples, which exploded at the same time. Destructive chi expanded from the void. Before Truth Divine Emperor could breath, 2 more golden beams shot out. These 2 faint, destructive kais crossed the void instantly. Truth Divine Emperor was in despair as he stared at the golden ripple. How can you have 6 real golden bone arrows? There were only 5 remaining real arrows, and each arrow needed some time to recover after being shot. Yi-Mo shot out 6 arrows and their power was at peak. The 4th arrow blasted Truth Divine Emperor's last ripple, and the 5th arrow struck onto his chest. Skin and bones were blasted to pieces. Truth Divine Emperor didn't have a single drop of blood on him. He burned all his life, essence blood, and even his essence spirit to block the first 4 arrows. But despite this, he couldn't escape his fate. He could never image that he had forbeared in the void for countless years, and even succeeded in cultivating the divine Tao Rebirth, but only ended up living a short year afterwards. He didn't even find a decent magic artifact in this year. Yi-Mo felt his hands shaky. Even he couldn't take shooting 5 arrows in a row. Truth Divine Emperor was far stronger than he had imagined. He didn't have any magic artifact and didn't convert his immortal essence to God essence, but blocked 5 of his arrows before being shot down. Yi-Mo admired his grit, but Yi-Mo knew he had to kill Truth Divine Emperor. Otherwise, Truth Divine Emperor would kill him. He had Truth Divine Emperor's Time Formation Disc, Bitter Bamboo, and Immortal Carnage Tower. Yi-Mo threw the bow and arrow into the Golden Page world and rested on an asteroid. At the same time, he was thinking that if Truth Divine Emperor had all his magic artifact, he might not be able to kill Truth Divine Emperor. Yi-Mo rested for a moment and found that he didn't know where he was at all. In the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect, Ji and the sect leader were sitting face to face. Ji immediately asked her master why the saint was switched when she wasn't dead. Master, you probably knew that my soul lamp wasn't out. Why did you appoint another saint? I'm back now. I hope Xiaoyun can go back to Lanyi Peak and I'll stay at Immortal Goddess Peak. Ji said. No, you can only become saint again after 100 years. Ji said without hesitation. Seeing Ji dejected, Ji Sini sighed. Ruashi, do you know why the great sun god mountain wants our saint? They want to sacrifice the saint to their mountain. The great sun god mountain has a Tao-seeking peak being. They're far stronger than our immortal goddess sacred sect. Great sun god mountain hasn't been able to relive their prime. If they use our saint to sacrifice to their mountain, the great sun god peak might reappear and their Tao essence divine emperor peak might be able to use this to break through to primordial essence divine emperor. Then why are we sending a saint there? Ji Shi asked in confusion. Ji Sini sighed because great sun god mountain is too powerful. They annihilated the Su Yu divine Tao. If they weren't scared of Duanmu Yuebwa, they would have flipped the sect grounds upside down. After all these years, Duanmu Yuebwa didn't come back. I think they probably have nothing holding them back. Even if we didn't give them a saint, they can find an opportunity to cause trouble. If we agree, we can delay for 100 years, so you must not spread news of you coming back. Ji Shi fell silent for a long while. Since we're sending a saint, why do we have to choose Xiaoyun? This is so unfair for her. She had the least time in our sect. After knowing that Yemo was Mu Xiaoyun's husband, she planned to help Mu Xiaoyun. She felt that if she did, she wouldn't owe Yemo anything and then would be able to reach Tao actualization divine emperor in a short time. Plus, Xiaoyun has a husband. She's not suitable to be saint. Ji Shi hesitated and said. Ji Sini glanced at Ji Shi and said slowly, Ruashi, do you think we're going to give Great Sun God Mountain a real saint for them to sacrifice? Huh? Ji Shi looked dazedly at her master, the sect leader who raised her up. She finally realized that although Xiaoyun was a sacrifice, she was also something that could prevent the Great Sun God Mountain from becoming divine. Xiaoyun was no longer a virgin. If she was sacrificed by the Great Sun God Mountain, how could the Great Sun God Mountain become a divine Tao mountain? Is locking up Martial Uncle Jailan to prevent her from stopping Xiaoyun going there? Ji Shi suddenly felt tired. The immortal goddess sacred sect was this famous in the divine Tao realm. It was a place everyone respected. It was scared and selflessness and the spiritual epitaph of the broken realm. But now, the immortal goddess sacred sect was scheming a lonely woman. Was this looking at the bigger picture or being selfish? Seeing Ji Shi's look, Ji Sini said again, Ruashi, our immortal goddess sacred sect saved Mu Xiaoyun's life. We're very grateful she can sacrifice for the immortal goddess sacred sect. Perhaps we can leave her name in the future. Qilan is immersed in the past, so locking her up for now is for the good of her. One day, she will understand my hard work. Ji Shi let out a long sigh and suddenly made up her mind. Master, I hope we can find someone who's willing to be saint. Or perhaps I can do it. Regardless who it is, Xiaoyun can't be saint. Ji Sini frowned. You being saint is wasting the will of the entire sect and fulfilling Great Sun God Mountain. You attained huge fortune from the God Necropolis domain and reached a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor in such a short time. I don't know what fortune you got, but this is a sign that the immortal goddess sacred sect is about to rise. How can you be so emotional? How can you handle the great responsibilities ahead of you? As though feeling she was too heavy on her, Ji Sini eased up her tone and said, Xiaoyun has this ethereal temperament. Although she's no longer virgin, she has the qi of a saint. Another married woman wouldn't be able to be like saint. Xiaoyun has the best talent and a qi that other women don't have. Only she can be the saint without making Great Sun God Mountain suspicious. Ji Shi stood up and said, Master, I'm afraid that making Xiaoyun saint would eventually harm the immortal goddess sacred sect. Ji Sini looked at Ji Shi in confusion. Xiaoyun probably came from the immortal realm. Although ordinary divine emperors don't know the passage to the immortal realm, but we do. If you're not feeling safe, you can go with Martial Uncle Yunhui and go annihilate her sect. Martial Uncle Yunhui already went to the immortal realm? Ji Shi got up in shock. Just when Ji Sini wanted to talk, she saw Yunhui outside and quickly opened the restriction. Yunhui, come in. Ruashi is back. It's great news that Saint Shi is back. Yunhui immediately said happily. Why are you here? Ji Sini looked at Yunhui in confusion. Yunhui also said in confusion, I'm very bewildered too. The place we found can definitely sense the immortal realm qi, but this time, I couldn't find it at all. The immortal realm's qi had been completely segregated. It seems someone has set up a formation to separate the immortal realm from the divine Tao realm. I'm planning to go check it again. Really? Ji frowned. Even if the immortal realm people knew there was a tunnel to the divine Tao REA, wouldn't be able to seal it. I suspect someone from this realm did it. I don't know the reason yet. Yunhui answered. She suddenly said, Master, we don't need to go to the immortal realm. I'm talking about Xiaoyun's husband. I saw him at the God Necropolis domain. What? You're saying Xiaoyun's husband went to the God Necropolis domain? Ji suddenly got up. How could that be? The news she got was that Xiaoyun's husband was probably dead already or fighting in the Cultivation realm. Ji nodded. Yes, he's called Yemo. I owe him a favor. It was due to him that I could cross the life-crippling bridge. You crossed the life-crippling bridge. Ji and Yunhui both got up in shock. Crossing that bridge meant there was the chance to reach primordial essence Divine Emperor. This news was too shocking. Ji thought she came back from the God Necropolis domain border. What was inside the life-crippling forbidden grounds? Ji tone was shaky. She shook her head. Just as I crossed it, I was devoured by a space fissure. When I came out, I found I was at the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. So that's it. Ji sat down. Moments later she explained life-crippling bridge is also called Samsara Heart Bridge. The crevices at the end of the bridge pretty much is the border of Samara. If you didn't go into the Samsara River, those void fissures are called heart mark void. These heart mark voids would take the person where they want to go the most. You were able to return to the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect accurately probably because you were in the 9 Lotus Stand. So that's it, she said. Ji nodded. We'll talk about that later. Tell me about Xiaoyun's Tao partner. Ji's face went serious. She began talking about what Yemo, and when she finished, she said worriedly, Master, Yemo is the strongest immortal emperor I've seen. Of course, I'm certain he's not immortal emperor. I owe him, but most importantly, if he didn't die and the sect did something against Xiaoyun, our sect will. You're saying he chatted very well with that Gongyang and even became friends? Ji frowned. Yes, Gongyan Qianbei indeed got along with Yemo. They're friends as equals. Ji said. Yunhui suddenly said, Sect leader, that Yemo fell down the life-crippling river. No matter how powerful he is, he can't survive. That Gongyang and only met him once and he's dead. I believe Gongyang and probably wouldn't remember him. Plus, it's not even certain if Gongyang and can come out of the God Necropolis domain. According to Jishi, Yemo just killed a Tao Molding Divine Emperor, so his power is probably at Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor. But our Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect has Tao Essence Divine Emperor. A mere Yemo is nothing. Master, I mean to give Xiaoyun's soul back to her. Jishi agreed to Xiaoyun that she would get her soul back. Ji shook her head. I can only give it back when she heads to the Great Sun God Mountain. Yemo stopped in the void. He still wanted to set up a formation for Lotus Glory Sect and visit where Xiaoyun stayed and find Meng Qi. But clearly that was impossible now. There were countless realms connected to the void and the universe was vast. He just reached Tao Molding Divine Emperor. He was far from letting his spirit will cross voids and realms. He really wanted to know how Truth Divine Emperor went back to the immortal realm, but Truth Divine Emperor wouldn't tell him. There were plenty of God crystals and God spirit ranges in his golden page world, but Yemo knew that even if he used them all, he wouldn't be able to reach Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor. Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor needed fortune and understanding of Tao law. This wasn't a piling up of resources. Shadowless, control the space-time boat. Wherever you feel there is people, just go there. You can tear the void here easily. Yemo said. He didn't know the direction anyways, so there was no difference if he was flying or shadowless. Shadowless loved to do such things. In order to have fun in the void, Small Ginseng and Chorang came out of the Golden Page world too. They both said that one extra person had one extra way. Yemo knew these three together would just waste more time, but he didn't have the mood to chat with these guys, so he let them all out. Yemo went back into the Golden Page world. He was going to build an exquisite residence for Qi Wanqing. Yemo used his best materials and even that unused God Heart Stone. Emo was very meticulous. Half a month later, he built an extremely beautiful palace for Qi Wanqing. A top-grade god spirit range was used to provide essence qi for the palace, and a top formation was used to protect it. Qi Wanqing's room was at the back of the palace. Emo planted thousands of immortal spirit herb and immortal flowers around the palace. Space-time boat flew like a headless fly in the void, but Emo could only let them do as they please. He was perfecting his god arts in the Golden Page world and would stay with Qi Wanqing when he had the time. 3 months later, Emo felt his Tao wave laws become more fluid. Today, Emo left Qi Wanqing's place and felt Shadowless' desperate call. Emo immediately scanned his spirit sense out and found that the three were trying their best to control the space-time boat. There was an extremely huge whirlpool in front of them. If they didn't try their hardest, the space-time boat would have been swept in already. Despite this, a little less than half of the boat was gone. Emo quickly sent the three into the Golden Page world. The next moment, the Golden Page world was sucked into the whirlpool. "Boss, I seem to feel we should go this way, so..." Shadowless looked down and called. It was completely his responsibility this time. He said to go close to that whirlpool and said it would definitely be fine. He even said that he and Emo had seen such whirlpool before and it would be fine as long as you didn't go in. In the end, the three neared it and lost control. They couldn't even go back into the Golden Page world due to the powerful suction force. Emo sighed. When he gave the space-time boat to Shadowless, he should have expected such things to happen. There were countless whirlpools in the void, but luckily they had Golden Page world. They wouldn't die from it. Emo didn't have the mood to tell Shadowless off. They were already lost anyways. So what if they were swept away? Emo had seen these whirlpools more than once before. Sometimes they lead to another void, sometimes they lead to another realm. If they really went to another realm, that would be good. But when Emo felt the outside get colder and colder, he felt things wasn't thing. When the Golden Page world fell into the whirlpool, it seemed to be dropping straight down non-stop. Emo was just Tao molding Divine Emperor, but his spirit sense was for beyond Tao molding Divine Emperor. Yet despite this, his spirit sense was quickly invaded by the coldness. His Golden Page world spun faster and faster, and his spirit sense lasted shorter and shorter. A month later, the whirlpool finally disappeared. Emo felt that coldness go away. The Golden Page world appeared in a dark gray world. Emo felt this world was empty. It had no life, no chi, no temperature. Emo came out of the Golden Page world and stood on this dark gray place. He scanned his spirit sense out slowly. All that his spirit sense saw was dark gray. There wasn't even color in this world. What is this place? It doesn't seem to be the void? Shadowless came out of the void. Emo looked around and said, "This isn't the void. If I'm not wrong, it's a world. A powerful immortal's solitary world. There's a gray stone house ahead and a dead person inside. Let's go have a look." Emo saw that the world wasn't big. This stone house was perhaps the only structure here. There wasn't even a door to the house. Emo walked in with Shadowless and saw a dark gray body. It was leaning against the wall with instant second head hanging down. There was an 80 centimeters spear pierced from his back. Emo suddenly felt this sense of familiarity from this person. It was indescribable, but Emo turned his eyes to the spear. He didn't feel any chi in this world, but when his spirit sense scanned this spear, a sharp killing intent shot out from the spear. Emo felt his sea of consciousness go cold. He immediately stabilized his sea of consciousness. He was very shocked. This spear wasn't even released, and it was this terrifying. Just how savage would it be if it was activated? "There's writing on the wall," Shadowless said. Emo saw it too. He walked closer. This body seemed extremely ugly, but there were 2 strands of tears trickling down that didn't dissipate with time. "My name Duanmu Yuebwa. So you divine Tao." Seeing the sect name, Emo immediately remembered the 7th painting he saw in that estate at the bottom of the river. There was a grand sect in the painting. A gray-robed man stood before the sect in the air. "I understand," Emo muttered to himself. No wonder this corpse felt familiar. It was the figure he saw in the painting. Emo knew this man was definitely not ordinary. His back seemed much cooler than his look, but someone like that died here. Emo sighed. If the river bed estate was set up by Duanmu Yuebwa, then he was definitely a powerful being. Divine Tao Samsara is broken. Tao pursuers forgot the source of life. I vindicated primordial essence Tao, will open the divine Tao realm Samsara, connect to the underworld and rebuild Samsara with great determination. There was a long message on the wall. After reading it, Emo couldn't help feel a pity for Duanmu Yuebwa. This person vindicated primordial essence. He felt very heart-ached seeing that divine Tao realm cultivators slaughter and rob with any means necessary for cultivation. He wanted people to know that even if they couldn't vindicate great Tao, they could still go into samsara and cultivate from the start as long as they had goodwill in their hearts. But samsara was extremely hard in the divine Tao realm. Only 1 in 10s or 100 could go into samsara. Duanmu Yuebwa wanted people to have more goodwill and decided to use his power to open a path to the underworld. Duanmu Yuebwa did go into the underworld and saw it, but at this moment, he realized he was too weak. Even though he was a primordial essence divine emperor in the divine Tao realm, he was nothing in the underworld. He went through countless years of hardship and still couldn't fulfill his dream. After he was ambushed and fled from the underworld, he hid into his small world. His sea of consciousness cracked open and just left a few messages of the dark lightning bead, and his sea of consciousness completely crumbled. Thus, he could only write on the wall. Emo looked around but didn't see any dark lightning bead, but he didn't care. He just wanted to get out quickly. If there was no way out, he was planning to break the gray world. When Duanmu Yuebwa left his message, he felt the Suyu divine Tao annihilated and battles everywhere in the divine Tao realm. Countless immortals and divine emperors died. Duanmu Yuebwa felt very sad that he couldn't help at all when the sect that raised him was annihilated. While he was trying to pave a path in samsara for the divine Tao realm, his sect was annihilated clean by the people of the divine Tao realm. This made his heart die too and his life force deplete more rapidly. The message stopped there. It didn't say who was hunting him, nor why he was hunted, nor how to get out. Emo sighed. If Duanmu Yuebwa didn't sense his Suyu divine Tao being annihilated, perhaps he would have had sliver of hope to live. He didn't believe that Duanmu Yuebwa paved the underworld passage purely out of altruistic motives. He definitely had his own agenda, but regardless it was very beneficial to the divine Tao realm. Emo grabbed the short spear that killed Duanmu Yuebwa. A vast and extreme killing intent came from the spear. It was like the killing intent was ready to kill. Even with Yemo's power, he almost let go. Such powerful spear. This killing intent is no ordinary thing. Emo said, "Shadowless boss, if you don't like this spear, you can give it to me." Emo ignored Shadowless. Emo used his god essence, and the short spear quickly left Duanmu Yuebwa's body. This extremely restlessness came from the spear. Emo suppressed with his spirit sense immediately and put a few restrictions on it before sending it to his golden page world. Emo felt this spear was even stronger than the 3-treasure primordial essence gourd. Duanmu Yuebwa's body suddenly fell down. A dark blood bead fell out of the wound in front of his chest, turning into a black bead. Emo didn't need to pick it up as the message Duanmu Yuebwa left behind came. This blood orb was Suyu Divine Tao's sect protection dark lightning orb. Those who can see this orb must be from the divine Tao realm. The one who gets this, if willing to swear to rebuild Suyu Divine Tao, can use this bead to return to the underworld passage he didn't finish. It couldn't go back to the divine Tao realm directly, but it could go back to the immortal estate he left. There was a In Abyss metal card there, and one could use that card to teleport to the Suyu Divine Tao from the 7th painting. Emo dazed and took out the metal card. He was eventually going back to the divine Tao realm. But soon Emo was grateful to Duanmu Yuebwa. Regardless of his motives, at least Duanmu Yuebwa gave him a quick way back to the divine Tao realm. However, he went around the cultivation realm and had a lot of unfinished business, and now he had to go back to the divine Tao realm. Shadowless quickly said, "Yeah boss, I felt I should come over here. That's why I came over." Emo waved his hand, "You're not to blame." At this moment, Emo realized that the reason Shadowless came over was because Duanmu Yuebwa left some chi to draw him here. Those who came from the divine Tao realm would feel this chi. At the same time, Yemo looked down on Duanmu Yuebwa's means of action. Perhaps he had a nice heart, but he definitely had ulterior motives for opening the Divine Tao Realm Samsara passage. The passage he went into before couldn't be entered by anyone. If he didn't have the Golden Page world, he would be dead. From this, it was clear that Duanmu Yuebwa drew people to that passage only thinking about his own benefits but not other people's life and death. If Duanmu Yuebwa set up the Samsara passage, it would be a huge contribution to the Divine Tao realm. With this, he might progress stronger. If Primordial Essence Divine Emperor was the extreme, he wouldn't be killed. Even if Primordial Essence Divine Emperor was the extreme, there was highs and lows. Yemo had vindicated Tao now and could sense some things about good karma. But Yemo didn't care about these things. He pursued his own Tao. He severed the wills affecting him during his Tao vindication. Repairing the Divine Tao realm and Immortal realm was a huge good karma, and it could help other Divine Emperors greatly and vindicate the best Tao. But Yemo wanted to vindicate his own Tao. Even if he was to repair the Divine Tao realm, it would have nothing to the award Heaven Tao gave him. Otherwise, no matter what Tao he vindicated, he would still be below Heaven Tao. Yemo picked up the dark lightning bead and immediately felt the ancient heavy mixed chi inside. Yemo didn't check the bead with his spirit sense. This was Suyu Divine Tao's treasure. He didn't want to take it for himself. If this bead can take me back to the Divine Tao realm, I, Yemo, will rebuild Suyu Divine Tao and return this bead to the sect. Yemo's words couldn't be called oath. He didn't say what would happen if he didn't do it. Yemo could even sever wills that made him swear during Tao vindication. How could he make an oath for such small thing? When Yemo said those words, there was no reaction from the dark lightning orb. Clearly, it was unhappy with his oath. Boss, it doesn't seem to be useful. Shadowless looked at the bead and said. He even wanted to say to Yemo, why not let me make the oath? I make oaths as easy as drinking and eating. No reaction. Then we'll break this world and find our own way back. A mere lifeless world can't stop me. Yemo sneered and turned to leave. Yemo knew that the bead probably noticed his words didn't sound like an oath at all and so didn't react. He was planning to break open this gray world. He didn't care if this world would be destroyed in the world. The instant Yemo turned, a dark ray suddenly shot out of the bead and struck the wall. In a buzz, a black whirlpool formed. Boss, it worked, Shadowless said. Yemo rejoiced. It was best that the dark lightning bead could conform. At least he didn't need to waste time in the void. Go into the Golden Page world first. I'm fine alone. Yemo sent Shadowless into the Golden Page world, and then he went into that whirlpool without hesitation. His spirit sense already reached inside and knew there was no danger inside. As soon as Yemo stepped in, he felt a powerful rotational force lift him up. Even with his powerful spirit sense, he couldn't see completely clear. The spinning force didn't last long. It seemed to have built a tunnel in the void, and in just 5 minutes, Yemo landed in a black room. Spirit sense scanned with his spirit sense. His spirit sense couldn't find a way out. There was a stair in the middle of the room and it expanded into the infinity. How could Yemo not know it? When he was at the estate at the bottom of the Changjiang River, this was the stairs he saw. His power was too low at the time and couldn't go down the stairs. This dark room was probably the place Duanmu Yuebwa connected to the underworld. Yemo didn't know if this passage was opened or not. Yemo didn't think about how to find the underworld tunnel. He just went on the stairs. He was worried if he could go up these stairs. If he couldn't, he would have to find another way out. Clearly, Yemo was worrying too much. He found it required much less power to go down than go up. Plus, his cultivation level was much higher than before, but the stairs weren't short. Yemo's speed wasn't slow, but he still used 2 hours to come to the top. Just when Yemo wanted to take out the metal card and open the Yin-Yang fish entrance, it opened automatically. A powerful cold power instantly filled the place and brought Yemo landing on the empty palace. Luckily, Yemo's power increased, and although this was sudden, he didn't faceplant in the middle like before. After Yemo fell in the palace, the Yin-Yang fish painting closed automatically. Yemo looked at this familiar palace and was speechless. Many years ago, he left from here. Many years later, he came back. The palace was empty and the paintings were still there. Emo knew that if he used the metal card, he could return to the divine Tao realm with the seventh painting. But this time he was in no rush to leave. When he saw the first painting, he almost sunk into it, but now he could look at a few more. The first painting was a servant carrying water. When Emo's spirit sense scanned in, he felt that powerful suction force again. If he was still Immortal Emperor, he wouldn't be able to stop this suction, but now that he vindicated Tao, he could feel a primal Tao wave from the suction force. As the Tao wave chi spread, it was like a primordial essence divine emperor teaching him Tao waves. Emo soon broke free from this. He was certain that if it was someone who hadn't vindicated Tao, he would immediately give up everything and sit here to derive his Tao. Emo had his own Tao law. Of course, he wasn't going to learn Duanmu Yuebua's Tao. He didn't care about the Tao wave laws. He saw messages from this painting. The servant carrying water was Duanmu Yuebua. If he used the metal card, he could teleport to the realm Duanmu Yuebua used to live in. Emo's eyes moved to the second painting. It was of someone running rapidly. On this painting, Emo could feel the hardship of Duanmu Yuebua's cultivation. These paintings recorded the bits and pieces of Duanmu Yuebua's cultivation. It was the source of his Tao vindication. He drew out perfectly his Tao vindication. Emo wasn't interested in looking at the third painting and just walked to the seventh and took out the metal card. This was the second time Emo appeared before the Suyu Divine Tao sect. The first time he came here, he didn't feel anything, but the second time he came here he had to rebuild the sect. The place was still ravaged and filled with broken landscapes and dried rivers. This time Emo didn't leave straight away, he valued his promise. Although he didn't make an oath since he agreed he would do it. Emo walked in the sect. Broken law kais ravaged the ravines, but they couldn't harm Emo at all. Clearly, the Suyu Divine Tao was intentionally made like this. Not only were the God Spirit ranges ruined, but even the nearby landscape was completely cut off. This is cruel indeed. Emo sighed. Rebuilding the sect wasn't easy. He needed to rebuild the fallen mountains and broken rivers as well as add God Spirit range here. Duanmu Yuebua helped him, but it seemed he needed to give quite a lot. Emo shook his head and began work. Emo saw what the sect looked like on the painting and could refer to that. At this moment, Emo stood amidst the rubble of Suyu Divine Tao sect and thought about how to recover it. The mountains and rivers gradually formed in Yemo's sea of consciousness. At this moment, a light flashed in Yemo's mind, and that was when he reached a certain cultivation level. He could recover the sect in the wave of a hand and not form a model in his sea of consciousness first and then build it. Yemo dazed with such idea and stopped. He was thinking about a higher state. Was this primordial essence state? However, that idea flashed too quickly and Yemo wasn't able to grasp it. Yemo suddenly woke up and shook his head. His cultivation level was too far from third step of Tao vindication primordial essence. He had decided to go find someone to build the sect first and then get revenge at Changfei Divine Tao City. Then, he would return to the immortal realm. He needed to seal the passage completely shut. Emo believed that with his current power, even if he couldn't understand that formation immediately, he would be able to perfect it with time. After he perfected that formation, he could return to the immortal realm and study about how to go back to the cultivation realm. He didn't believe that he couldn't go back to the cultivation realm when Truth Divine Emperor could. Just when Emo moved, he caught a subtle chi. Emo flashed and disappeared. When he appeared again, he was in front of a man and woman. They were both Immortal Emperor and were defenseless to Emo. They knew that Yemo's power was far greater than theirs. "Who are you? What are you doing here at Suyu Divine Tao?" Emo sneered as his powerful Divine Emperor force crushed over. The two couldn't take Yemo's powerful force and immediately wanted to expand their domain. Emo looked at the pretty woman and said, "You're from Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect?" Emo had fought with Ji-Shi countless times and could immediately sense the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect cultivation method. Hearing this, the woman's face went pale as snow. Emo thought about it and realized what happened. The Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect women were all Immortal Goddess. They wouldn't be together with another man. This was unheard of. Now that this Immortal Goddess was with a man and she looked very nervous, Clearly she betrayed the immortal goddess sacred sect. Emo didn't mind. In his eyes, the immortal goddess sacred sect was only so-so. He didn't even feel St. G she was very sacred, much less this ordinary sect members. She was just a pretty woman, that's all. Emo hadn't left yet because he wanted to know what the two were doing here. Wanbei Zhu Wanmao, please forgive me for offending Qianbei. It's my fault that he came here. Please don't spread the news about us. The man said respectfully and subtly stood in front of the immortal goddess Yuhi. Qianbei, Wanbei is indeed from the immortal goddess sacred sect, but Brother Wanmao didn't ask me to come. I wanted to go with him. I'm willing to go back to the immortal goddess sacred sect and receive punishment. This has nothing to do with Brother Wanmao. Please let him go. The beautiful woman quickly explained. Emo was speechless. I have no problem with you two being together. Do whatever you want. I don't know immortal goddess sacred sect and I won't go report you in. Before they could rejoice, Emo's tone suddenly went cold. But tell me why you came here. If you lie at all, then don't blame me. Their faces became nervous again, but this silence didn't last very long before Zhu Wanmao saluted with his fists to Emo. Qianbei. Wanbei, don't dare to ask who Qianbei is. Wanbei had decided to not live on after Yuehe goes, so Wanbei will tell Qianbei the reason. Emo frowned. I didn't say to kill you. What are you talking about? Brother Wanmao, let me explain. Lei Yuehe's face went calm again. Lei Yuehe bowed to Emo again and said, Qianbei probably knows which sect is the strongest in the divine Tao realm, right? Emo nodded. It's probably your immortal goddess sacred sect, right? Lei Yuehe shook her head. No, out of the three big divine sects, immortal goddess sacred sect was the weakest. The strongest was Suyu divine Tao. Then it was Great Sun God Mountain. Suyu divine Tao had perished, so the strongest is Great Sun God Mountain. Lei Yuehe said this subconsciously and then realized that Emo probably knew all this. She said with fear, Wanbei said too much. Qianbei probably knows this. Emo didn't know it at all, so he could only say awkwardly, just say everything you know. I didn't know that indeed. I've been in solitary cultivation. The two looked at Emo with shock but didn't dare to rebuke. After all, the three big divine sects of the divine Tao realm was instant second flag. There was no way Emo didn't know about them. Our sect Saint Qing saved the collapsing divine Tao realm and thus was respected by people of the broken realm and rose our sect to a number one sect. But in fact, there's a sect who wasn't affected much, just like ours. It's the Great Sun God Mountain. Lei Yuehe was very precise and Emo nodded happily. Continue. Yes. Lei Yuehe continued. Ever since Suyu divine Tao was annihilated, the people from Great Sun God Mountain rarely appeared. After countless years, people from Great Sun God Mountain started to come out. We know that even two of the immortal goddess sacred sect combined is no match for Great Sun God Mountain. Emo asked, You're saying that Great Sun God Mountain wants to annihilate immortal goddess sacred sect? Lei Yuehe said definitely. They do. You're all sects of a broken realm. Why do this? Emo asked. The reason they haven't done this is because the main peak of the Great Sun God Mountain, the Great Sun God Peak's law, is incomplete. It was contaminated. They need to sacrifice our saint to purify it. Once the impurities are gone, the powers of the Great Sun God Mountain would rise again. Hearing this, Emo was more confused and asked with a frown, How do you sacrifice the saint? At the peak of the Great Sun God Mountain, slice open the neck of the saint and let her blood flow down the peak until the saint dies and all of her life force is devoured by the Great Sun God Mountain. Lei Yuehe said dejectedly. Then she added, This is just their excuse. If we don't lend them the saint, they would use this to attack. After we lend them the scent, they would still attack. Emo could guess that Ji-Shi wasn't the sect, as Ji-Shi told her that for some reason she was no longer saint. This Great Sun God Mountain was so bleak. The divine Tao realm was already withered to this state and they still want to dominate everything. If this continues, the divine Tao realm would eventually completely cripple. I heard that a prodigy of Great Sun God Mountain is about to reach primordial essence divine emperor. They're probably doing this for that prodigy. They want to use the entire realm to vindicate his down. Once he fuses the divine Tao realm and completes the sect, His primordial essence divine emperor would be in great completion. Zhu Wenj said. Then he said hatefully, I've suspected the great sun god Mountain Long had such plans. You're saying that a Tao essence divine emperor peak stage of great sun god Mountain is about to fuse the entire realm and then use it to vindicate primordial essence? Emo asked in shock. Isn't this spirit controlling the entire divine Tao realm for himself? This was more than cruel. On the surface it seemed to be doing good, but even a primordial essence divine emperor would have to kill all the living beings here. Even if he didn't, all the living beings on this place would be spirit-controlled and turn into divine Tao laws once he perfected the world laws here. Yes. Zhu Wenmao sighed. Emo shook his head. Impossible. If it's just a Tao essence divine emperor, there's no way he can do this. Emo's cultivation level was far from Tao essence divine emperor, but he had some understanding of Tao essence divine emperor. He knew that even a peak stage Tao essence divine emperor can't spirit control the entire divine Tao realm. That was suicide. Perhaps he isn't Tao essence. Perhaps he is already primordial essence. Emo's heart was shook. Could a primordial essence divine emperor spirit control the divine Tao realm? It said that the divine Tao realm had 5 primordial essence divine emperor before, and they remained in balance. No one dared to spirit control the divine Tao realm. But before, even if there was just one primordial essence divine emperor, he wouldn't be able to spirit control the complete divine Tao realm. But now the divine Tao realm was broken. A primordial essence divine emperor might really be able to spirit control this realm and then rebuild the realm with his god art. That way, this realm would probably be his chaos world. If there really was such a guy, then he would have to flee this place. The three fell in silence. Emo finally realized what Zhu Wenmao's death meant, but he was still suspicious. If Chen Bei doesn't have any business, Wan Bei will be going. Seeing Emo not talk, Zhu Wenmao said again. Emo nodded. Lei Yuehe, I want to ask you another question. I know you're Saint Ji Shi. Did she come back? Hearing this, Lei Yuehe dazed but soon reacted and bowed. Chen Bei. Saint Shi has been back to the sect for a few years. But now she's no longer the saint. It's someone else. Emo rejoiced. Gee, she was back and he could get his gourd from her. Okay. I'm very happy with your answer. I have one last question. Why did you guys come to Suyu Divine Tao? Emo thought about getting the gourd and was very happy. Zhu Wenmao sighed. He knew he had to answer and bowed to Emo. Because Wan Bei is the only surviving sect member of Suyu Divine Tao. You're a sect member of Suyu Divine Tao? Then why do you sneak here? Emo asked. Zhu Wenmao said. Because our sect was annihilated by Great Sun God Mountain. You're saying Great Sun God Mountain annihilated Suyu Divine Tao? Emo repeated and seemed to understand. If the Great Sun God Mountain really had primordial essence divine emperor and wanted to control the entire divine Tao realm, then it wasn't impossible that they annihilate Suyu Divine Tao all those years ago. Emo thought and asked, Suyu Divine Tao was annihilated a few million years ago. You seem far from this age. That's because when the sect was annihilated, Wan Bei's essence spirit fled. I was lucky and found a Luo Shao Wu wood to rebuild my body. After that, I restarted cultivation. I later encountered martial sister Yuehe. Without her, I wouldn't be able to last till today. Zhu Wenmao said. Emo could feel he wasn't lying. He looked at him and said, I'm somewhat connected with Duanmu Yuebwa. I came here this time mainly to help rebuild the sect. If you dare to stay, then help me. Our primordial essence martial ancestor Duanmu Yuebwa. Zhu Wenmao dazed. When the sect was annihilated, the entire sect was hoping the martial ancestor would come back, but he didn't even at the final moment. This is a long story. If you're willing to help, then we'll talk about it at Changfei Divine Tao City. Emo knew that, in order to rebuild the sect, they had to go the city. Many materials had to be bought from the city. 2 hours later, Zhu Wenmao knew from Emo that his martial ancestor could never return again. Zhu Wenmao was lost for words. He had always hidden at the sect in hopes that the martial ancestor would come back one day. Yi Chen Bei, if the sect is rebuilt, I'm afraid the Great Sun God Mountain would. Zhu Wenmao said worriedly. If it wasn't for the Great Sun God Mountain, Emo would rebuild the Suyu Divine Tao straight away. After knowing about Great Sun God Mountain, of course he wouldn't do it recklessly now. He had to know the situation of Great Sun God Mountain first. He gave Zhu Wenmao a storage ring and said, "There's half a top-grade God Spirit range." Zhu Wenmao almost dropped the storage ring. The thing lacking in the God Necropolis domain the most was the God Spirit range. Even low-grade God Spirit range was rare, yet EMO gave him half a top-grade God Spirit range. EMO knew God Spirit range was in shortage here and was planning to give one to the Suyu Divine Tao anyways. He took out half to help prepare resources for setting up the sect and the other half for setting up the spirit gathering formation. Yiqian Bei, Zhu Wenmao said drily. Half a top-grade God Spirit range was probably enough for him to vindicate Tao. This is the resource for rebuilding the sect. Use this to buy resources at the city and wait for me to come back. This wasn't much in Yemo's eyes, but Yemo wasn't that wealthy now. He needed to cultivate too. This wasn't wealthy to Yemo, but in Zhu Wenmao's eyes, it was more than enough. The divine Tao realm was lacking resources. Even half a low-grade God Spirit range can exchange for countless resources and set up the sect for Suyu Divine Tao. Please rest assured, Qian Bei. I will definitely buy the things to set up the sect and wait for Qian Bei to come. Zhu Wenmao calmed down his excitement and said. Yemo said to Lei Yuehe again. I'm going to visit the Great Sun God Mountain and Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. Don't worry about your identity. I know Jishi, it's probably not hard for you to leave the sect. Just wait here and help Zhu Wenmao. To Yemo, he felt that she still owed him even if she gave the gourd back to him. If she didn't even want to help with something like this, she was too shameless. Lei Yuehe was an immortal goddess and Yemo knew their status here. Even if something happened to Zhu Wenmao, she would be able to use the name of the sect to settle things. Thank you, Qian Bei, Wan Bei knows. Lei Yuehe said excitedly. Yemo didn't enter the city. He needed to get what he deserved at the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect and check out Great Sun God Mountain. After separating from them, Yemo used the map Lei Yuehe gave him and flew for a day before stopping and entering the Golden Page world. The first thing he did was to spirit control that short spear. Yemo was certain it was no ordinary thing or it wouldn't be able to kill Duanmu Y Webo. When he took the spear out, chaotic messy chi seeped out from his restriction. There was killing chi, hatred chi, abyssal chi and Tao Mark chi mixed together. Yemo set up the time formation disk and then removed the restriction and began spirit controlling this spear. The time formation disk ran for 3 days for Yemo had spent a year and still couldn't spirit control the spear. He could only slowly erode at the chaotic chi. But Yemo knew the name of this spear now. This name was insane. It was called Murder Tao. It was this unknown material that had been nourished for countless years and formed this short spear. Yemo stopped spirit controlling this spear. First, he didn't like this name. There were different heights to Taos. Everyone had their own Tao. This spear was named Murder Tao, meaning that no matter how strong you got, as long as you had your own Tao wave, you might be killed by the spear's backlash. Second, Yemo didn't like to use spears, much less a spear with this much impure chi. This spear had stayed countless spirits and would definitely slay more. However, the material of this spear was the best Yemo had seen so far. Yemo immediately thought of his Zisu. His Zisu was now just barely a low-grade god artifact, mainly because he lacked the materials and his forgery skills weren't good enough. Zisu was different to other magic artifacts, however. Could fuse materials itself. If he melted the material and fused it into Zisu, it would become a supreme magic artifact. Looking at this Murder Tao spear, Yemo was interested. The only worry Yemo had now was if blue like morning sky could melt this spear. If not, it would be pointless. Just when he released blue like morning sky, he felt blue like morning sky was different. He could even sense blue like morning sky's mood. What was going on? A baby chi came. Yemo blurted out, "You're a fire spirit? The fire spirit of blue like morning sky?" Then, Yemo was very certain that a fire spirit was born. As the chi from blue like morning sky became more and more complete, Yemo was even more certain. Yemo rejoiced. Flames could have a spirit when they were immortal flames. His Mist Lotus Heart Fire was too low level, so he didn't use it and didn't care. But when his blue like morning sky reached immortal flame, there was no fire spirit. Although blue like morning sky had reached God flame for a while now, finally a fire spirit was born. although it couldn't completely communicate with it, but it could express its feelings. "I'll call you Little Blue." Emo laughed. He felt very good. "Little Blue, I need you to melt this spear and remove the impure chi inside and fuse it into Su. Can you do it?" Emo asked. Blue like morning sky sent a contemptuous mood as though unhappy with Emo for doubting his capabilities. However, the murder Dao released a chaotic chi. Emo didn't care and just threw Blue like morning sky on the spear. Blue like morning sky quickly wrapped the murder Dao spear and released a fearsome blue flame. Cracking sounds came, but even after a few days, the spear was still there. The chaotic chi was getting weaker and weaker. It seemed Little Blue just needed to burn through the chaotic chi and would then be able to melt the spear. So amazing! Blue like morning sky was already God flame and could be said to be the strongest flame in this realm, but still couldn't melt this spear. Emo sent a message to Little Blue telling him to take it slow. Emo left the Golden Page world. He didn't need to watch it constantly. Emo was at a small marketplace right now. The words said Wuxia Market. It wasn't small, but it was an open roof market. The reason he stopped here was because he had been to this market once. He wore a mask here and was attacked due to people thinking he was Taba Feiyong. Emo dined planned to go in, but when a familiar spirit sense came from the market and spun on him, it released some joyful chi. Emo recognized who this person was. Just when he wanted to go in, this person immediately landed next to Emo. "I really didn't expect to be able to see you here." It was a woman, but when she saw Emo's chi was still at Immortal Emperor, she collected her joy. It was an extremely beautiful woman. "So it's Yingyao Goddess. Congratulations on Dao Vindication." Emo immediately realized why she collected her joy. She succeeded Dao Vindication, but he was still Immortal Emperor. She didn't want to hit his insecurities. Emo didn't care. The divine Dao realm's laws were incomplete. He vindicated Dao in his own chaos world. His Dao wave and laws were much more complete. "Brother Yi really exceeds my expectation. I really thought Brother Yi was a monk before." Xianxia looked at Emo's long black hair speechlessly. She wondered how Emo came out of the God Necropolis domain border. Perhaps he had a top-level rune, but she didn't want to ask Emo. She respected Emo's power despite he wasn't a divine emperor. Just some small achievements. "Martial Brother Yi has better talents than me. You will reach future than me," Xianxia said, and then changed the subject. "Brother Yi, do you want to sit for a while in the market?" Emo wasn't a monk, so she was still suspicious of Emo and Taba Feiyong, but she felt Emo was a good person and didn't force him. Of course. Emo agreed. He had some things he wanted to ask Xianxia too. Xianxia had high status, and now that she reached Divine Emperor, she was respected even more. The people who saw her in the marketplace all bowed to her. After inviting Emo into an immortal rest tower, Xianxia poured a cup of top-grade immortal tea for him. Before she asked, Emo asked, "Goddess Yingyao, I want to ask if you know about the 3 divine sects of the divine Dao realm?" Xianxia smiled. "If you asked me before, I really wouldn't know, but lately I heard that the Great Sun God Mountain and Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect still remains. So you divine Dao had been annihilated. The older generation of the broken realm would know." Emo asked, "Then how come you wouldn't know if I asked you earlier?" Xianxia answered, "Because something big happened at the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect lately. Their saint is about to go to the GSS and pray there. The Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect is the #1 sect of the Divine Dao Realm, so they invited all the Divine Emperors of the Divine Dao Realm to go there and visit the ceremony. I was invited too." Emo immediately knew what was going on. It was no prayer ceremony. The Great Sun God Mountain and Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect both knew that the saint would be sacrificed. Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect knew their power was weaker than Great Sun God Mountain, so they invited all the Divine Emperors. If their saint was really killed at the Great Sun God Mountain, then they would immediately announce this news. Then, the Great Sun EW God Mountain would have to face not only Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect but all the Divine Emperors of the Divine Dao Realm. Then, Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect would have even higher status, and the entire Divine Dao Realm would be against Great Sun God Mountain. The Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect's calculations might seem good to them, but to Emo, it was too naive. But Emo was not interested in this. He just wanted to find Ji before they sent the saint to the great sun god mountain. As for how the immortal goddess sacred sect fought, he didn't care. Does goddess Yingyao know about any more specifics about the three big divine sects? Xianxia shook her head. I don't know very clearly. If Brother Yi wants to know more about the situation, I can go back and ask and then bring Brother Yi a jade slip. Emo laughed. I'm just casually asking. No need for that trouble. Shan Yingyao didn't mind and continued, the immortal goddess sacred sects Yunhui Qianbei is coming to Changfei Divine Dao City to greet us. I'm just passing by the market here. It's really fortunate to see Brother Yi here. She didn't feel Yimo's disappointment and approved of Yimo's mentality even more. Yimo didn't answer. He was going to the immortal goddess sacred sect, and it was best before the saint went to Great Sun God Mountain. Seeing Yimo didn't chat much, Shan Yingyao asked, Brother Yi, I want to ask if you have seen Taba Feiyang? Or... Yimo knew she called him over for this and he was planning to admit it, so he nodded. That's right. I've seen Taba Feiyang. What, then you... Shan Yingyao got up in fury. This extreme fury spouted from her. She was certain that the one wearing the mask was Yimo. This meant Yimo killed Taba Feiyang and used his skin to make the mask. Seeing her intense killing intent, Yimo really didn't have the mood to fight with her and sighed. I want to see the Taba Feiyang I saw was fake. He wore a mask. Although I didn't spirit control that mask, I know it's definitely not made from Taba Feiyang's skin. Then Yimo took out the mask and showed it to Shan Yingyao. Shan Yingyao sat down dejectedly. She believed that the real Taba Feiyang wasn't killed by Yimo. It was an instinct. Shan Yingyao looked at the mask and said sadly, you're right. You didn't kill Feiyang. Can you tell me about how you killed that imposter? Yimo didn't hide this and just said what happened at Muhua God Mountain. Thank you, Brother Yi. You helped Feiyang get revenge. Shan Yingyao gave the mask back to Yimo and bowed. Yimo respected her quite a lot. She thought he was only an immortal emperor but was still willing to bow to him. This is what I got from the fake Taba Feiyang. I have no use for it. If it belongs to your martial brother Feiyang, then have it. Yimo took out the cracked 6 glory soul light. Shan Yingyao exclaimed again and grabbed it. Her tone sniffed. Clearly, the magic artifact belonged to the real Taba Feiyang. Seeing her so sad, Yimo got up and said, Goddess Yingyao, ye will be leaving now. Wait. Shan Yingyao came back to her senses and rubbed her eyes. Her actions also made Yimo think she was not a divine emperor but an ordinary woman. To many divine emperors, this action meant an unfirm mind, but in Yimo's eyes, it was someone who was still alive and had emotions. Shan Yingyao said again, Thank you for bringing this magic artifact to me. I don't have anything good to give Brother Yi. Yunhui Qianbei is going to Changfei Divine Dao City. We're going there too. Yimo knew what she meant. She wanted to bring him to the Shandu God estate and give him some rewards, but Yimo wasn't interested in such things. Not good. Yimo suddenly thought of something and dashed out in a light and disappeared. What's not good? Before she finished, Shan Yingyao realized that Yimo had disappeared from her. She just realized that even as a Dao molding divine emperor, she didn't see how Yimo left. Yimo's heart was burning now. When she said the Yunhui divine emperor of the immortal goddess sacred sect was at Changfei Divine Dao City, he reacted. Lei Yuehe and Zhu Wenmao were doing things for him in the city. He hadn't gone to immortal goddess sacred sect to mention Lei Yuehe to Jishi yet, and there was a divine emperor from immortal goddess sacred sect there. Lei Yuehe was a mere immortal emperor. She wouldn't be able to resist a divine emperor at all. If that divine emperor realized that Lei Yuehe disobeyed the sect rules, perhaps she would kill Lei Yuehe on the spot. Even if she didn't, she would remove her power. Lei Yuehe might have a chance to live, but Zhu Wenmao, who seduced Lei Yuehe, would have zero chance to live. Yimo didn't believe the immortal goddess sacred sect was truly sacred. He had seen hypocrites all too much. Just from how they invited other divine emperors to watch the ceremony to draw hatred to Great Sun God Mountain meant something. At this moment, Yimo used space-time boat to its extreme speed. If it wasn't that the space here was too unstable, he would even use instant transmission. At the city gates, 20 or so divine emperors stood on the two sides. a gray-robed pretty woman walked down from the air. Some immortal emperors and below could only stand behind respectfully. Welcome Yunhui Qianbei. Welcome Yunhui Divine Emperor. This gray-robed pretty woman was Immortal Goddess Sacred Sex Yunhui Divine Emperor. Just looking at the city greeted her, one would know how liked the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect was. Yunhui smiled to these divine emperors and nodded. This divine chi formed Dao wave rings behind her back, making her seem more sacred, as though she had the utmost beauty and loving chi. Some weak-powered immortal emperors didn't even dare to look her straight in the eye. To them, Yunhui was too beautiful that they didn't dare to show any disrespect. Thank you everyone. Our Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect will protect the divine Dao realm till the end, Yunhui said casually. At this moment, Zhuan Wenmao and Lei Yuehe, who were hiding in an immortal rest tower, had their faces turn pale as paper. They would have never imagined that before Yemo came back, the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect Yunhui Divine Emperor came. Yunhui Divine Emperor detests immortal goddesses who aren't impure. Lei Yuehe wasn't scared of death, but she was so scared of Yunhui Divine Emperor that she couldn't talk. Zhu Wenj grabbed her hand and said, Yuehe, sorry? I'm so useless. I brought this to you. I didn't even have the chance to rebuild Suyu Divine Dao, and then I brought disaster to you. Lei Yuehe hugged Zhu Wenmao tightly. Brother Wenmao, we can die together. I don't want to fall into martial uncle Yunhui's hands. That would be worse than death. Zhu Wenmao sighed. He couldn't even protect his own woman. He didn't know what was the point of him cultivating all these years. Yuehe, we'll be Dao partners next time, Zhu Wenmao said, and then was about to suicide. Wait, Brother Wenmao. Lei Yuehe stopped him. Lei Yuehe put his hand on her chest and said shakily, Brother Wenmao, Martial Uncle Yunhui is at the city gates. It will be a while before she finds us. I haven't been your Dao partner yet. I really want to do it once. Lei Yuehe's tone was shaky and her face went red. Once you made up your mind, you have much less fear. Zhu Wenmao dazed. Before he could speak, he heard a sneer and a huge essence chi hand grabbed them out. Thud thud. They were thrown at the city gates. Everyone immediately dazed. They didn't understand why Yunhui Divine Emperor threw out two divine emperors on the ground. I recognized them. One seemed to be an Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect Immortal Goddess. What's going on? Some people discussed in the crowd. Yunhui's temperament and royal look was a bit hideous due to anger. She pointed at the two and said coldly, This woman dares to pretend to be our Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect member and dares to ruin our Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect reputation. I was wondering why an Immortal Goddess was with a man. So she's a fake. Of course. Which Immortal Goddess do you see having a Dao partner? Immortal Goddesses are sacred. How can they be with a man? This woman is so evil. She dares to ruin the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect's reputation. She deserves to die. The crowd was furious and about to kill the two. Yunhui's hideous face eased up a bit. She said slowly, This man is trying to ruin the reputation of the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect with this fake Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect woman. I'm going to kill him, but I have to take this woman back to Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect for interrogation. Why did she impose as our Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect member? It's Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect after all. They're so magnanimous, he's only going to die. Yeah, if it's someone else, it would definitely be burning their souls and annihilating it completely. Of course, the divine sect is magnanimous unlike others. People discussed heavily outside the city. Only some experienced immortals saw through some things, but they said nothing. Most immortals were cursing the two deserved to die. Zhuan Wenmao gritted his teeth and wanted to speak up for Lei Yuehe before he died, but he was suppressed by this invisible power, making him not able to say a word. Go to your next life. Don't do something this immortal in your next life, Yunhui said and shot a beam at Zhu Wenmao's dantian. The two saw the beam shot over, but there was nothing they could do. At this moment, all the immortals outside the city suddenly felt a space wave. Before they could realize what happened, they heard a thud. Those weaker immortals were confused as that wasn't the sound of dantian breaking. But soon they saw that the beam didn't shoot at Zhu Wenmao's dantian but a fist that came down from nowhere. Thud. There was another huge explosion, and the sturdy ground outside the city had a huge ravine. Ripples appeared in space too. A blue figure landed at this moment and stamped. The ravine outside the city disappeared. The powerful essence Qi backlashed. Yunhui stared dazedly at Emo, who stood in front of Zhu Wanmao and Lei Yuehe, and asked dazedly after a while, "Who are you? How dare you stop the divine sect in their business?" At this moment, people saw that the beam was blocked by a fist. This blue-robed man actually stopped the beam from a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor. This speak was unheard of. He's just an immortal emperor? Everyone was more shocked when they saw Emo was only an immortal emperor. No one believed this. "Are you guys okay?" Emo ignored Yunhui and removed her restriction. Zhu Wanmao reacted and got up in surprise and joy. "Thank you, Qian Bei, for helping. Wan Bei is fine." Lei Yuehe got up and said dejectedly, "Wan Bei is fine, thank you, Qian Bei." Yunhui was furious seeing that Emo ignored her, but thinking about how Yemo's fist, she resisted the urge to fight and sneered. "Who are you? You stopped the immortal goddess sacred sect. Do you want to fight against the entire divine Tao realm?" Emo laughed. "All you talk about is immortal goddess sacred sect. Do you want to use immortal goddess sacred sect to scare me? Acting against the immortal goddess sacred sect is acting against the entire divine Tao realm. Do you think you're a spring onion or garlic? Don't think so highly of yourself." Then, Yemo's smile went away as he said coldly, "Zhu Wanmao is my friend. You old bastard dare to attack him. I haven't gone to look for your trouble yet, and you dare to accuse me first. Is the immortal goddess sacred sect very amazing? Your immortal goddess sacred sect owes me something and still haven't returned it. Piss off before my mood goes bad." "You?" Yunhui's face was pale white. She had never been treated like this. How could she take it? If people didn't see Yemo's punch, people would have gone up to challenge Yemo already, but from how Yemo punched, it was obvious that Yemo was no weaker than Yunhui Divine Emperor at all. It would be suicide for ordinary people to go up. Although there were so many people here welcoming Yunhui Divine Emperor and respecting the immortal goddess sacred sect, not many wanted to come up and die for them. Yunhui was shaking with anger, but she didn't attack. She really wanted to kill Yemo immediately, but Yemo attacked later and arrived first, punching her windfire lethal beam in one punch. He was no weaker than her. Even though she only used 30% power, she didn't feel she had won for sure. If she couldn't beat Yemo, it would be a huge blow to the immortal goddess sacred sect. This time, she came to gather momentum and force for the immortal goddess sacred sect. Yunhui didn't fight, but Yemo didn't intend on letting her go. He told her to piss off just so he could get her to attack him. Yemo didn't expect her to be this forbearing, but even so, Yemo was going to make her attack first. The immortal goddess sacred sect was this well received. If he attacked first, then, even if he had reason on his side, he would have the disadvantage. If everyone felt he had no reason, then it wasn't good no matter how strong he was. He was going to rebuild the Suyu Divine Tao sect. He would need the help of the city. He couldn't offend the entire city. Yemo ignored Yunhui and saluted with his fists to everyone. Everyone. Justice is among out hearts. Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect is the #1 sect of the Divine Tao realm, and theoretically they should be upholding justice in the Divine Tao realm and not abuse the weak. Many people might think that my friend is wrong and deserves death for offending the Divine Sect. Okay, even if they deserve to die, then at least give the person a chance to speak. I'll let Zhu Wanmao explain why this high-status Divine Sect Divine Emperor wants to kill him. If he's indeed wrong and the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect Divine Emperor still wants to kill him, I won't say anything. I believe as the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect Divine Emperor, you would not give my friend a chance to speak right. Yemo sneered at Yunhui. Of course, you can pretend to not hear it and leave now, but if you do, then it means you were indeed abusing the weak before. That is extremely shameless. If the Divine Sect has such people, then I believe everyone in the Divine Tao realm would be extremely disappointed. Hearing this, everyone stayed silent. No one agreed to disagree publicly. It was very natural for the accused to speak up for himself. Yemo knew the opportunity had formed, and he said to Zhu Wanmao, "Brother Wanmao, how did you offend the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect? Why is the respected Divine Sect Divine Emperor killing you?" Speak up, there's plenty of people here. People aren't dumb. They can differ between right or wrong. If you did indeed offend the immortal goddess sacred sect, I can't help you. Of course Zhu Wenmao knew what Yemo meant. He looked up and said, "That's right. I'm an os, but I didn't do anything to offend the immortal goddess sacred sect. I fell in love with Yueha and we love each other. Yueha is indeed the immortal goddess of the immortal goddess sacred sect, but what right does this divine emperor master have to accuse us of framing the immortal goddess sacred sect? Say she's not an immortal goddess and not even let us speak." Yemo stood up and said again, "Lei Yueha is an immortal goddess sacred sect member. I'm going to the immortal goddess sacred sect this time to help her leave. This divine emperor of the immortal goddess sacred sect is speaking blind words with open eyes." Yemo then said to Lei Yueha, "Yueha, are you an immortal goddess of the immortal goddess sacred sect?" Lei Yueha clenched her teeth and said, "Wanbei is indeed an immortal goddess of the immortal goddess sacred sect. Wanbei went against the sect rules. This has nothing to do with Wenmao." Yemo was speechless. This Lei Yueha was too honest. She's an idiot to say she went against the sect rules now. Humph. Yunhuai's face was green. She stared coldly at Lei Yueha and said, "You were an immortal goddess, but now anymore. You are kicked out of the immortal goddess sacred sect. The immortal goddess sacred sect doesn't have a shameless bitch like you. You putrid, revolting mess." People immediately began discussing. This meant that Yunhuai was lying before. She said that Lei Yueha wasn't an immortal goddess and imposed as one. But now she kicked Lei Yueha out of the sect. Yemo spat and stared at Yunhuai in contempt. "Do you have any face? Putrid, revolting mess? Are you not born from a mother? Or are you a female monkey that came out of a rock? You're saying it's disgusting for male and female to fall in love. Are you saying your parents are putrid, revolting mess too? If your dad didn't fuck your mum, can you come out? Stop being a hypocrite, you're the most disgusting." Yemo's words were so mean that Yunhuai's face changed rapidly. The surrounding people were dazed upon hearing this too. "Go die." Yunhuai could no longer contain her fury and waved out light while expanding her divine emperor domain like crazy. The people nearby quickly retreated. Even some divine emperors retreated too. 108 wind fire sand turned into ripples that completely surrounded Yemo. It was like the heavens were smashing down on Yemo. Yemo sneered. Yunhuai's power was the weakest of all Dao nourishment divine emperors he had seen. Plus, he was many times stronger than before. Yemo didn't even release Zisu and just smashed out a few hand signs. He couldn't even be bothered using domain. Ice Space God Art. It was infinitely close to a great God Art. This was the first time Yemo used it after learning it at the life-crippling desert. The nearby space seemed to have paused and this bone-eroding frost flow blew out like the wind. Even Dao molding Divine Emperor felt cold and the immortal emperors retreated quickly while thinking what God art this was. It created such a terrifying frost flow? The space around Yunhuai and Yemo seemed to have completely froze. The 108 wind fire sand seemed to have been frozen and instantly slowed down until pausing. Yunhuai's domain also began to crack open. Crack! Space seemed like an icy river that completely froze and then cracked open. The fire wind sand was like falling leaves that had lost its life and slowly fell down. Yunhuai's face was pale and murmured, "What god art is this?" But Yemo didn't answer her and punched. Thud. Yunhuai's domain cracked open. Yemo's punch landed on her chest. She spat a mouthful of blood and flew out. Dao Essence Divine Emperor? That's the only thought Yunhuai had in her mind. Yemo was definitely Dao Essence Divine Emperor. Otherwise, how could he so easily smash her away? She knew that Yemo didn't want to kill her with that punch or she would have cracked apart already. Even though she was extremely heavily injured, Yunhuai didn't dare to land. She turned around and dashed away immediately. Yemo sneered and couldn't be bothered chasing. He never intended to kill this woman. The Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect was very big and he didn't have any big conflicts with them. He didn't need to kill Yunhuai and have conflict with the sect. All the immortals who witnessed this battle took in a cold breath. What power was this? One god art and a punch smashed away a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor and almost killed her. This power was terrifying. Xianxia immediately chased over after she saw Yimo leave the market. She was a bit slower than Yimo but saw how Yimo easily defeated Yunhui. If Yimo didn't show mercy, Yunhui would have been killed. Xianxia took in a cold breath. Yunhui was a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor and Yimo. Clearly he reached Divine Emperor too, but she just couldn't tell before. He's just as terrifying as before. Xianxia thought about how Yimo killed half-divines like chickens. Those divine emperors saw Yimo's power and all came up to greet him. Yimo saluted with his fists. Immortal friends. I won't comment on the good or bad of the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect, but everyone saw this woman. She's extremely shameless and twists the truth. I didn't kill her today because of the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. Yimo then said loudly, Zhu Wenmao and Lei Yuehe are my friends. They need to buy some materials in the city. Please don't trouble them on my account. Brother Yi, you vindicated Tao indeed, and you progressed so fast. I'm the from at the bottom of the well. I actually thought you were still an immortal emperor. Xianxia saluted with her fists. Goddess Yao vindicated Tao too. Yimo laughed and saluted with his fists. Xianxia knew she was a far cry from Yimo and asked, Brother Yi, are you going to the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect? Why don't we go together? Yimo sound transmission. Goddess Yao. If you trust me, then don't go to the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. Why? Xianxia locoed at Yimo with confusion. I don't know the reason exactly. Yimo was only guessing, but of course he wouldn't tell her his guess. I'll listen to you. Xianxia didn't keep asking and instantly chose to believe Yimo. Yimo gave her this mysterious feeling. She didn't know just how powerful he was. Such person was very terrifying. She would rather not go to Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect than leave Yimo. Was the impression that she didn't trust him. Yimo nodded and approved of her wisdom. If she went to the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect, she would be used by the sect. Yiqian Bei. Lei Yuehe came up and called. She was truly grateful to Yimo. Call me Brother Yi. I'm going to the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. You and Wenmao keep buying materials like I said before. I believe no one would dare to touch you guys now. Yimo waved his hand. Xianxia quickly said, Brother Yi, don't worry, just go. I will stay at the city. Yimo knew that Xianxia wanted to thank him and didn't reject. After all, Lei Yuehe and Zhu Wenmao was too weak. He was quite assured with Xianxia staying here. Martial Brother Yi. Lei Yuehe sound transmission to Yimo. I heard that the new saint of the divine sect has lost her virginity. Although the divine sect has means to hide it, the great sun god mountain would definitely realize it when they sacrifice her. There would definitely be a huge battle between the great sun god mountain and Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. If Martial Brother Yi is going over. Hearing this, Yimo immediately knew that his guess was correct. The Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect was doing exactly what he imagined. Don't worry, I've long thought of this. The Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect would intentionally take in a woman who has lost her virginity. They're quite planned. Yimo looked down on this Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. The lives of ordinary sect members were insects to them. Lei Yuehe continued to sound transmission. That Mu Xiaoyun wasn't intentionally taken in. It said she came from the immortal realm and was taken in as disciple by martial uncle Qilon. Just when she reached Great Unity Immortal. What did you say? What is that saint called? The veins on Yimo's head burst as he grabbed Lei Yuehe hideously and asked coarsely. Lei Yuehe was fraught by Yimo's state and quickly said, She's called Mu Xiaoyun. She came with the sect members called Luo Biue. Before she finished, she felt more space ripple and Yimo was gone. He actually used transmission at the Divine Tao Broken Realm. Martial Brother Yi. Lei Yuehe murmured and then stopped. She realized that this Yimo Qianbei must have close relationship with this Mu Xiaoyun. They might even be Tao partners. Lei Yuehe sighed. The Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect formed another great enemy, but there was nothing she could do. Yunhui was furious, but she was no match for Yimo. Even if Yimo pointed her nose and beat her, she would have to run away. That punch damaged her meridians. If she didn't repair her meridians quickly, it would affect her future cultivation. After dashing another 1,000,000 km, Yunhui stopped in a barren land and spat another mouthful of essence blood. She cursed even more in her heart. Just when Yunhui wanted to open a temporary cultivation home, another dashing light went past her head. Yunhui was shook. Normally, she wouldn't care about it at all. From the looks of it, it was just an immortal emperor tertiary stage. But now, she was no match for an immortal emperor. Of course, if she fought with her life, she didn't fear immortal emperors. But if she did that, she would never be able to reach Tao actualization divine emperor in her life. Just when Yunhui was praying for that light to disappear, it came back and landed before Yunhui. Qian Bei, are you the divine emperor master of the immortal goddess sacred sect? A good-looking middle-aged man landed. He seemed dominant, but his tone was humble. Yunhui sneered. Yes, what business do you have? Wanbei Fengkong. I see that Qian Bei seems to be injured. Wanbei has long admired Ix. I'm willing to serve Qian Bei. Fengkong said in a genuine tone. He didn't even dare to look up. Yunhui's face eased up and she said, no need, just go. My injuries are nothing. Yunhui was a Tao nourishment divine emperor, but her calculations were nothing compared to Fengkong. Fengkong just used one sentence to get out the fact that Yunhui was heavily injured. Then Wanbei will leave. Fengkong saluted with his fists and seemed even more respectful. Yunhui nodded happily. The fame of the immortal goddess sacred sect was still there. Even with what happened at the Changfei Divine Tao City, it might not affect the big plan for immortal goddess sacred sect. Just when she relaxed, Fengkong suddenly released a blue beam. A huge word, Idlo, instantly surrounded Yunhui. If Yemo was here, he would know this was Fengkong's lethal blow. The primordial 6-word god art used by the soul-robbing blue cloud brush. It was twice as strong as before and extremely rapid. It instantly surrounded Yunhui. The killing intent activated the nearby space lethal force, forming an ancient killing intent, and smashed on Yunhui. Yunhui spat a mouthful of essence blood and said hatefully, "How dare you?" Fengkong instantly sealed Yunhui and carried her away from this barren lands. When Fengkong came to the divine Tao realm, he realized that Tao vindication was extremely hard here. Now that he saw the divine emperor of immortal goddess sacred sect, how can he let her go? If she was just ordinary immortal goddess, he wouldn't be interested at all, but Yunhui was a divine emperor and one who kept her virginity. If he gave up such opportunity, he wouldn't be Fengkong Grand Emperor. He was immortal emperor peak stage and just one step from Tao vindication. Of course he was going to take her virginity gladly and use it to vindicate Tao. 15 minutes later, Yunhui was tortured awake by Fengkong. She immediately noticed the strange feeling of her body. It was this indescribable feeling. It seemed to be joy and sadness at the same time. She immediately saw Fengkong Grand Emperor who was on her and felt the virginity she had kept for countless years gradually leave her. At this moment, she almost fell unconscious again. Arg! Yunhui burned her god essence and punched. Fengkong knew Yunhui woke up, but he was at the crucial moment of taking her virginity essence. He couldn't avoid that punch. It landed on his chest and he spat a mouthful of blood. Even just a sliver of qi of a Tao nourishment divine emperor was extremely terrifying. No matter how fallen Yunhui was, she was still a Tao nourishment divine emperor. Seeing the terrifying qi on Yunhui, Fengkong, who was heavily injured, no longer dared to stay. He got what he wanted. Whether or not he could reach divine emperor all depended on his luck and effort. When Fengkong fled, Yunhui's face was hideous. She detested immortal goddesses who lost their virginity, but this thing now happened on her. What was even more cursed was that other immortal goddesses willing lost their virginity while she was forced. At the immortal goddess peak, Mu Xiaoyun dazedly sat at her cultivation grounds. She didn't know what to do anymore. She noticed something wrong. She was not only not allowed to see her master, and wasn't even allowed to see martial sister Biyue. She couldn't go anywhere other than the immortal goddess peak. Mu Xiaoyun. Ji Shi's voice sounded behind Mu Xiaoyun. Mu Xiaoyun woke up. Ji Shi sighed. Although she was much stronger than Mu Xiaoyun, she didn't stealth her qi. Mu Xiaoyun reacted this slowly, meaning that she understood her situation a bit, but just didn't know what to do. Martial sister Shi. Mu Xiaoyun quickly got up. She hesitated for a moment and asked, "Do you know that the Great Sun God Mountain people are here? Do they want me to go to the Great Sun God Mountain now? Did the sect leader already agree?" Mu Xiaoyun asked calmly. She could know about this because Luo Bue risked her life to find out about it. "Yes, I was thinking of ways to help you during this time, but even the sect leader didn't expect the Great Sun God Mountain to make us send the saint over ahead of time," she said apologetically. She knew that the Great Sun God Mountain wasn't dumb. They could think of what the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect thought of. Mu Xiaoyun shook her head. "Martial sister Shi, you don't owe me anything, so you don't need to help me. You can't help me anyways." She fell into silence again. "Xiaoyun, I really do owe you, or perhaps I owe your husband Yemo. He..." "What?" Mu Xiaoyun suddenly got up and grabbed Shi shakily. She really wanted to say, "Hurry up and tell me where my husband is? Where is Yemo?" But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't speak a word. She sighed for Mu Xiaoyun and sent an essence chi over to calm her down before saying, "Xiaoyun, don't worry. I know indeed. I just didn't tell you last time. I was planning to tell you about this today." Mu Xiaoyun could finally talk. She said shakily, "Martial sister Shi, please tell me where Yemo is?" She didn't said, "I owe Yemo, but I can't pay him back. It's the same if I give it to you, but the Great Sun God Mountain people are about to take you away. The results are same regardless if you know where Yemo is." Mu Xiaoyun felt like she was poured a bucket of cold water. She dazed. She was about to be taken away. So what if she knew where her husband was? Could she go? Mu Xiaoyun soon cast that thought aside. She just wanted to know about Yemo now. This was as important as life and death to her. "I really want to take you out of the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect," she said slowly. "Ha!" Mu Xiaoyun dazed. She didn't expect this at all. If she took her out, wouldn't she be able to see her husband Yemo immediately? At this moment, she was willing to give her life to she just to see her husband again. She said sadly, "But I don't have such power. Plus, even if I do, I can't do that. I can only tell you where your husband went and give to you what I owe him." Mu Xiaoyun finally woke up. Her face calmed down and she bowed to Shi. "Please tell me, Martial Sister Shi, where's my husband Yemo? I just want to know that he is safe and then I won't worry." Mu Xiaoyun had made up her mind that she would kill herself later. She would be very satisfied to know that her husband is fine. There's definitely no good in going to Great Sun God Mountain. If she was going to be insulted at Great Sun God Mountain, she might as well end herself. G11 could see Mu Xiaoyun's death wish, but she didn't remind Mu Xiaoyun. No matter what, she wasn't going to let Mu Xiaoyun kill herself. If Mu Xiaoyun killed herself, then Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect would be in a very bad situation. Your husband might have fell into the life-crippling river. You might not know about it, but from what I know, even a Tao Essence Divine Emperor would certainly die if he fell in. She didn't even finish, but Mu Xiaoyun felt her eyes go black. Even though she was a great immortal, it didn't matter. She felt like her body and soul had left her, pulled away by Shi's words. Yemo used instant transmission the whole way. Using instant transmission in a place like Divine Tao Realm was like carrying your head in your hands. Even though Yemo was lucky, he was devoured by Space Fisher 4 times. If he didn't have Spirit Sense Domain, he wouldn't even know where he would be now. He was also sliced off a large piece of flesh by Space Disposition. Usually, it would take a few days to reach the outside of Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect, but Yemo only used less than half a day to get to the outskirts of Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. Divine Sect Region, stop. 2 blue-figured people stopped Yemo. These 2 were immortal emperors. Where is Mu Xiaoyun? Yemo's eyes were red as he yelled with murderous intent. There is no Mu Xiaoyun here. Leave the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect range immediately. Another immortal goddess yelled. Yemo didn't get the answer he wanted, so he couldn't be bothered wasting time with these 2. He kicked twice and both immortal goddesses were kicked away, unable to do anything. They spat blood like crazy and flew back. Who dares to be cocky at the Divine Sect? Another blue light landed in front of Yemo. This was a tall woman, Tao molding Divine Emperor. She was the tall woman who wanted to kill Mu Xiaoyun when she saw that Mu Xiaoyun had lost her virginity. Yimo's force rose as his killing intent soared through the clouds and yelled, "Where is Mu Xiaoyun? Where did this wild dog come from? Leave the immortal goddess sacred sect immediately. This is not a place where you can find a bitch," the tall Tao molding divine emperor said as she released a blue long sword. Seeing that she dared to insult Mu Xiaoyun, Yimo couldn't even be bothered saying a word. He threw out the 36 lightning sea god orbs as well as releasing ice space. This space was already controlled by Yimo's divine emperor domain. With the ice space binding, this space was instantly frozen. Even Yunhui had to flee under Yimo's ice sky. A Tao molding divine emperor immortal goddess couldn't do anything under this. Before she came back to her sense, the 36 orbs smashed over. Waves of lightning flashed. It was like killing mosquitoes with cannons. Shenheian didn't even have a small piece of her remaining. Yimo didn't even have the mood to pick up her storage ring and charged into the immortal goddess sacred sect. At this moment, the sect formation hadn't closed yet. Lightning sea god orbs? At the top seat of the guest palace, a purple-robed woman stared at Yimo in fury. Yimo killed Shenheian in just a second. She didn't even have the time to save her. Then this purple-robed woman got up. Her face was green. Someone was this crazy and dared to kill Tao molding divine emperor in this immortal goddess sacred sect. Sect leader G, why are you so furious? Another Tao actualization divine emperor peak stage man got up. The immortal goddess sacred sect could shield from spirit sense. Ji Cine could see clearly what happened outside, but the rest of the people in this guest palace didn't know. The man who got up was a divine emperor from the great sun god mountain. Despite the immortal goddess sacred sect not allowing men to come in, they couldn't stop the people from great sun god mountain coming. Yueha, tell the grand elder that there's someone who barged into our sect and broke our outer defense formation. He also killed out Sex Tao molding divine emperor Shenheian. Ji Cine said with extreme fury. Great Sun God Mountain was this cocky and still tried to find an excuse to attack them, but this bastard didn't have any excuse and just killed Tao molding divine emperor in the sect. Since when was the immortal goddess sacred sect so easily abused? When Ji Cine's spirit sense scanned to Yimo immediately noticed it. Her chi was much stronger than that Tao molding divine emperor. Yimo just flew into the depth of the sect. Yimo knew that the saints of the immortal goddess sacred sect stayed at immortal goddess peak, but he didn't know which one was the peak. However, he was a top-level formation grandmaster and understood the arrangements of the main peaks. Yimo had no concerns at all now. His spirit sense blades and spirit sense beams ravaged the sect. The powerful spirit sense barrier formations were torn open with brute force by Yimo. In a very short time, Yimo found the approximate direction. Yimo was very desperate. He went where he wanted not because he was very strong but because he attacked suddenly and the immortal goddess sacred sect hadn't reacted yet. If they reacted, he would be at the disadvantage. Even now, a few powerful spirit sense locked onto him and were getting closer. An extremely powerful spirit sense scanned over from afar and pierced onto Yimo's spirit sense domain. Even though Yimo's spirit will 9 transformations reached level 5 and had his simple spirit sense realm, he couldn't help shiver under this powerful spirit sense. Even the immortal goddess peak stage body couldn't endure such piercing from this spirit sense. This was definitely a Tao essence master. Yimo's heart sunk. He knew that immortal goddess sacred sect had Tao essence divine emperor but didn't expect she would be out this quickly. He wasn't even scared of Tao actualization divine emperor peak stage, but if a Tao actualization divine emperor came, it would be impossible for him to take away Mu Xiaoyun quickly. He had to avoid direct contact with Tao essence divine emperor or he would sink himself in the set too. No matter how powerful 3 birth chant was, it couldn't allow a Tao molding divine emperor to fight a Tao essence divine emperor. Perhaps if Yimo kept cultivating, he would be able to beat Tao Essence Divine Emperor with Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor power. 3 birth chance stealth method was to transform yourself into everything. Could help avoid Tao Essence Divine Emperor lockdown. Yimo instantly changed direction and stealthed himself. A mere Tao molding Divine Emperor hiding his power to Immortal Emperor, and you dare to startle me? Has the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect fallen to this degree? In a distant cultivation home in the sect, an unhappy voice sounded. Emo was full of killing intent and his essence chi spilled. That Tao essence divine emperor saw through Yi Mo's real cultivation level. Yueha is worried. That person killed martial sister Heian in just a few moves. Sect leader. The Grand Elder interrupted. Go tell Jisini. If she needs me to go for a Tao molding divine emperor, there's no point of her being a sect leader and there's no point for our sect to exist. Might as well just dissipate now. Yes, sect leader. Shu Yueha replied respectfully and left carefully. This Grand Elder would never expect that Emo was a Tao molding divine emperor who could easily kill Tao nourishment divine emperor and fight with Tao actualization divine emperor. She took away her spirit sense too early, or she would find that it was extremely hard for her to find Emo's tracks too. What is going on? Jisini stood before the immortal goddess peak with a green face. The two immortal goddesses who were kicked by Emo stood before her. Sect leader. A man who is very powerful is looking for Mu Xiaoyun. Martial sister Heian was killed in a few moves by him. They said shakily. Hearing Mu Xiaoyun, Jisini frowned. You're saying he's here for Mu Xiaoyun? What's his name? I don't know. The immortal goddess said worriedly. Jisini even forgot to find Emo. She suddenly had a bad feeling. Mu Xiaoyun was just an solo cultivator from the immortal realm. How could she have such a powerful friend in the divine Tao realm? Sect leader, the Grand Elder said. She said that it's only a Tao molding divine emperor if our divine sect no longer needs to exist. Shu Yueha flew over and said, I understand. Jisini waved her hand. If a mere Tao molding divine emperor needed the Tao essence divine emperor of the immortal goddess sacred sect to intervene, then this immortal goddess sacred sect was too weak. Master. Jishi, who got news, came from the immortal goddess peak. Jisini recounted what happened and asked Ruashi, who do you think this person is? According to what I know, he might be a very insane Tao molding divine emperor. His power would be no weaker than mine. Even the Grand Elder thinks he's only a Tao molding divine emperor, but he could instantly kill Heian. This is unexplainable. Then, Jisini said to the two immortal goddesses, draw out the image of this person. She knew what her master meant. She was asking her if this Tao molding divine emperor was related to Mu Xiaoyun's husband. The two agreed and waved their hands, drawing out Yemo's face in the air. She looked dazedly at Yemo's face and said nothing. Seeing this, Jisini's heart sunk. She had a bad feeling. She said to the two, you two may leave first. After the two left, she said slowly, Master, this person is Yemo. I didn't expect he could survive falling into the life-crippling river. He's too insane. Sigh. Jishi's tone grew very heavy. Yemo could even kill Tao nourishment divine emperor easily, much less a Tao molding divine emperor. This person is very powerful and doesn't accept threats. He treats people who treat him nicely the same way. I couldn't notice his stealth cultivation method even now. Now that our sect offended him. It's clearly a life or death situation. Jisini frowned a lot and said after a while, Yemo is indeed powerful. I saw him kill Heian with my spirit sense. But his strongest magic artifact is the 36 lightning sea god orbs. If we suppress that, he wouldn't be able to escape. The Grand Elder is right. If I can't even handle a Tao molding divine emperor, then the immortal goddess sacred sect no longer needs to exist. What? She dazed. Even she didn't expect Yemo had 36 lightning sea god robs. Master, you're saying that Yemo's 36 lightning orbs were very powerful? She asked. Jisini nodded, that's right. The 36 orbs are no weaker than prenatal spirit treasure. Perhaps it is prenatal spirit treasure. Its force is amazing. Before instant second power was activated, Heian was killed. Such deep calculations. She finally realized that the lightning orbs Yemo took out at the Wooding Valley was fake. The real ones were already spirit controlled by him. It was fake, and that's why Yemo took it out so generously. What's going on? Jisini asked, seeing Jishi's face was so heavy. Jishi sighed, Master. Yemo's most powerful meme definitely isn't the lightning orbs, but something much more terrifying. What is it? Jisini had this deep concern in her mind and asked desperately. It's Great Primordial God Rune. He knows Great God Art, Great Primordial God Rune. Jishi's tone went coarse. She was worried about things happening with Mu Xiaoyun here. If there was one person Yemo didn't want to be enemies with, that would be Yemo. Every impossible thing became possible in his hands. Black Lake was spirit control. Wooding Valley was opened. The life-crippling bridge was crossed. The more she thought, the more scared she was. What? Ji called out in shock. She was shocked at great primordial god rune. She said slowly, from what I guess, his most powerful mean isn't even great primordial god rune. Ji heard of how terrifying Yemo was from Jishi, but no matter how scary he was, he fell in the life-crippling river, so he was no longer scary. Now that Yemo wasn't dead, she began to feel abysmal. The reason that she felt this was because she knew her disciple was very prideful. No matter how talented a prodigy, she didn't consider highly of him. But she looked so highly of this Yemo. Great primordial god rune was a fearsome ancient great god art. Those who heard its name were scared. Yet Jishi said that Yemo's greatest means wasn't the great primordial god rune. How could she calm down now? I believe any divine emperor would know how terrifying the great primordial god rune is. Ruashi, did you get things wrong? Yemo has a god art more powerful than great primordial god rune? Then isn't our Tao essence divine emperor no match for him? Ji asked. She said slowly, Master. I'm not saying Yemo has a god art stronger than the great primordial god rune, but because he just learned the great primordial god rune. Even if just learned it, ordinary divine emperors can't take on great primordial god rune. Ji said. She hesitated and said, I guess that Yemo has golden bow of divine extermination and has at least 3 arrows. What? Ji completely lost her calm. If Yemo completely spirit controlled the arrow, then even she can't last 3 arrows. Master, you don't need to worry. Even if Yemo has golden bow of divine extermination, I believe he wouldn't be able to spirit control at all. She comforted. Ji didn't think so lightly of this. Even if she defended against the 36 orbs and dodged the great primordial god rune, can she dodge the golden arrow of divine extermination? This meant that she would most likely lose to Yemo, thinking about how she was a Tao actualization divine emperor peak stage and yet was more likely to lose to a Tao molding divine emperor. Ji felt very defeated. Sect leader, I think we should give Xiaoyun back to Yemo, and Shuyuaha said. She knew the sect was in a dangerous spot. Great Sun God Mountain was up here and now they offended Yemo. How is Mu Xiaoyun? Ji knew that Mu Xiaoyun was the key, but there was no way she would give Mu Xiaoyun back to Yemo like this. No matter how strong Yemo was, he was just one person. Ji was thinking about how to get Yemo to hate Great Sun God Mountain. That way they could avoid conflict with Yemo and send Great Sun God Mountain a big enemy. I've arranged Xiaoyun. Even if Yemo finds Immortal Goddess Peak, he wouldn't be able to find Xiaoyun. Plus, I've shut all the restrictions there. Yemo wouldn't be able to go in. She answered. Ji nodded and just wanted to tell all the divine emperors of the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect to gather, but more than 10 dashing lights already came. Clearly, the divine emperors of Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect already knew what happened. Wang Nanshuang's cultivation level was very high. She was also Tao Actualization Divine Emperor and was one who hated evil martial uncle Nanshuang. Ji bowed. Wang Nanshuang sneered, Is our Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect still the same sect as before? So what if the Great Sun God Mountain is here? Why should our sect give a saint who lost her virginity to them? Sect leader, if this continues, what face does our sect have to exist in the divine Tao realm? Wang Nanshuang, how dare you reproach the sect leader? Another woman yelled at Wang Nanshuang. Martial sister Nanshuang, Mu Xiaoyun isn't our real disciple. She's a woman who lost her virginity. Another Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor came out and said. Wang Nanshuang didn't seem to hear these two and sneered. We shouldn't have Mu Xiaoyun as saint in the first place. Since we did, we should treat her as the real saint and not give her to the Great Sun God Mountain. Even if we drain our last blood, we shouldn't lower our heads to the Great Sun God Mountain. Martial uncle. The person who charged into our sect and killed Heian isn't people from the Great Sun God Mountain but Xiaoyun's Tao partner. He's called Yemo. Shu Yueha explained. What? These divine emperors were shocked. They realized what happened. They wanted to sacrifice Mu Xiaoyun, and now her Dao partner was fighting over here. Wang Nanshuang's face was green. She felt this was a humiliation of the immortal goddess sacred sect. All those years ago, Saint Qing used her great mercy to sacrifice herself to save the entire divine Dao realm. Where did that ideology go? What did she see now? Can the current immortal goddess sacred sect even be called a divine sect? Sect leader, why don't we give Xiaoyun to the great sun god mountain divine emperor and then spill this news to Yemo? That way, Yemo would hunt that Dao actualization divine emperor. That way, our sect can watch on the side. If Yemo kills that Dao actualization divine emperor, it would be great. Another divine emperor said. Shut up. Can you only think of such ways? Do you not feel it's embarrassing? Since Yemo is here killing at our sect, we'll just kill him. Using Xiaoyun as a bait, is this something our sect should do? Wang Nanshuang's face worsened. Ji Sini felt very uncomfortable. She thought so too, but Wang Nanshuang's attitude didn't respect her as a sect leader at all. Yemo didn't dare to even scan his spirit sense, fearing he would be found Byt Hat Dao Essence Divine Emperor. The place he was at now suddenly went cold. Yemo didn't like this place. He didn't expect the immortal goddess sacred sect had such a place, but he didn't leave immediately. He was thinking about how to get into the immortal goddess peak. 15 minutes later, Yemo decided to send out his spirit sense. A short hill appeared in his spirit sense, and Yemo saw the 3 words Prison Door Mountain. This place was very bleak, and there was chaotic qi cutting at his spirit sense, making him feel very uncomfortable. The Yin fire kept invading his essence spirit. Yemo felt that if he stayed here for long, his sea of consciousness would be heavily injured. Yemo's spirit sense went inside the mountain and noticed countless restrictions there. Some were clear, some were subtle, some were natural. A pale-faced, beautiful woman was locked up here. Her restrictions were simple. Yemo sighed. The immortal goddess sacred sect did all sorts of bad things in the dark. This woman definitely received the harshest punishment in the world. Even with his powerful spirit sense, he felt the countless Yin fire burning his essence spirit. How could ordinary people bear this place? The cold and impure qi made people's cultivation level drop. If a person locked up here was a primordial essence divine emperor, then with enough time he would be dead for sure. Yemo didn't care about the locked-up woman. His spirit sense scanned another underground prison. There were all sorts of restrictions, but Yemo pierced them with his spirit sense blades. His spirit sense fell in the deepest and largest part of the mountain. There were black chains there. There were some bones under the chains. Yemo saw those bones and suddenly had this indescribable sad feeling. Yemo frowned. He wasn't planning to go there, but these few white bones changed his mind. The immortal goddess peak would definitely be surrounded by the Dao Essence Divine Emperor Spirit Sense. Yemo had decided to take these few bones and metal chains. The prison door mountain had no one to guard it and was at the depth of the immortal goddess sacred sect. Yemo had no concerns. He already had conflict with the immortal goddess sacred sect. He didn't care at all. He charged in the depth of the prison door mountain quickly and broke into this cell. It was filled with Yin fire invisible to the eye and even spirit sense. Yemo had never seen such terrifying Yin fire. They seemed to be able to burn into the depth of the soul, making sea of consciousness and essence spirit cripple. Life disappeared quickly in this bleak fire. Such an evil place. Yemo didn't dare to stay here for long. He released Zissou and hacked on the black chains. Black sparks flew out and there was just a shallow mark left on the chain. Yemo's heart sunk. He hacked Zissou with his full power but couldn't even break some chains. These chains were too powerful. This was really troublesome for Yemo. If he knew this earlier, he would have spirit-controlled Murder Dao. If he spirit-controlled Murder Dao Spear, he would definitely be able to break the chains here. The white bones jumped around when Yemo hacked, and this gave Yemo a strange feeling of sadness. Yemo didn't see any heads here, just a few white bones locked by the chains. Because the Yin fire was heavier in here, Yemo didn't hesitate and released Golden Bow of Divine Extermination. Yemo shot out 6 arrows in an extremely short time. Yemo had never shot with the Golden Bow of Divine Extermination at such a close range. The sixth consecutive exploded out annihilation chi that completely tore open the fire in the prison. Rumble, 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 rumble. The chains completely exploded. A feeling of weakness came. EMO casually put away the golden bone arrows and took out an extremely big jade box, putting these white bone arrows inside. After this, EMO didn't stop at all and smashed away the restrictions and flew out. At this moment, he was feeling weak. He had to recover first and then charge up the immortal goddess peak. After EMO charged halfway, a spirit sense came. You're EMO. EMO knew that the only live person in the entire place was that beautiful woman. EMO felt strange and shocked that this woman knew his name. Theoretically, no one here knew he was called EMO. There was only two people who knew his name was EMO in the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. One was Lei Yuehe, but she was at Changfei Divine Dao City. The other was Ji Shi, who should still be at the life-crippling Forbidden Grounds. How did this woman, whom he had never seen before, know him? EMO stopped and asked this woman, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" "You're really EMO?" the woman asked in surprise and joy. This woman was Lan Qilan. She just guessed and didn't expect this man was really EMO. Xiaoyun had shown her an image of EMO before, but there were way too many similar-looking people in the world. Plus, according to what Xiaoyun said, her husband should not be on the same level OT this man. EMO frowned. "I'm Lan Qilan, Xiaoyun's master. Xiaoyun showed me your image, but your power level is heavens apart from what Xiaoyun said. That's why I'm suspicious." Lan Qilan calmed down. EMO said slowly, "You're Xiaoyun's master. Why would you be locked up here? With the fire burning your soul, you would eventually die without a soul." Lan Qilan sighed. "Xiaoyun was no longer a virgin, but I took her in. Then, Martial Sister Yunhui wanted to recommend Xiaoyun to be saint. I immediately objected, but Xiaoyun still couldn't get rid of that identity. But because I offended Martial Sister Yunhui, I was locked up here. This bitch. If I knew this, I shouldn't have let her leave. I should have killed her." EMO didn't expect Yunhui was behind Xiaoyun being a saint. If he saw Yunhui again, he would definitely not let her go. He had already offended the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. It didn't matter if he killed more. "What? You fought with Martial Sister Yunhui, and she was no match for you?" Lan Qilan asked in shock. Then, she started to think about how EMO came in. EMO fought with Yunhui and charged into the prison door mountain, clearly not through normal means. He probably fought his way in. Thinking about this, EMO could kill Yunhui and slaughtered the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. Lan Qilan shivered. "I'll save you." EMO released Zissou. He felt the chains locking her were much weaker than the ones before. "I don't need you to save me. Did you kill people in my sect?" Lan Qilan's tone went cold. EMO knew what she meant and sneered. "Kill in your sect? Xiaoyun is used to be sent to the Great Sun God Mountain as a sacrifice for the mountain. If I can't save Xiaoyun, do you think I will just be killing people at your sect? I will make the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect disappear forever from the Divine Dao realm and annihilate both the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect and Great Sun God Mountain." Then, EMO sliced down with Zissou and the chains instantly broke apart. The next moment, EMO disappeared from this prison. He didn't care if Lan Qilan would come out. At this moment, EMO just wanted to recover a bit and charge up the Immortal Goddess Peak. 15 minutes later, EMO stopped stealthing himself and dashed towards the Immortal Goddess Peak. At the same time, EMO locked onto the 36 lightning orbs and golden bow of divine extermination, ready to release them at any time. "Stop!" A blue figure landed before EMO and released a strand of holy light wheel, but didn't attack first. EMO didn't care, he would kill anyone who stopped him. EMO was also shocked. The Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect was indeed powerful. This random person was a Dao Actualization Divine Emperor. He waved out the 36 lightning orbs. EMO didn't know that even the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect only had 5 Dao Actualization Divine Emperors. Seeing EMO attack without talking, the woman was furious. Her holy light will smashed out like a huge spider web covering half the skies. Countless light emitted from the net. This was an extremely powerful Dao Actualization Divine Emperor. EMO could tell from her first god art. The stronger this person was, the quicker he had to kill her or he would be trapped soon. The 36 lightning orbs shot out countless lightning. The rolling thunder completely covered the bottom of the immortal goddess peak. Before, when Yemo killed the Tao-molding divine emperor, the orb's power wasn't activated, but now, it was fully released. The silken holy light wheel was the opposite to the lightning orbs. The tens of thousands of strands of light struck the lightning, creating this cracking sound. These sounds blasted ripples across the nearby space. Another rumble blasted open, and finally a fine crack in space appeared. The woman was smashed away a few km before stopping. Blood seeped out of the corner of her mouth. At the same time, she stared at Yemo with shock. She heard Yemo was only Tao-molding divine emperor, but she didn't expect a Tao-molding divine emperor was stronger than her. Yemo's heart sunk. He wasn't happy at all for having the upper hand. He used all 36 orbs, but this woman blocked it and left its attack range. If he didn't kill this woman, he definitely wouldn't be able to get on Immortal Goddess Peak. Yemo knew that he couldn't be stalled here. Yemo had decided to keep attacking her with the lightning orbs and then bind her before using Great Primordial God Rune to kill her. Just as Yemo thought, this woman released a white long sword. Stop! Just when they were going to keep fighting, a coarse voice sounded and a figure landed. It was Mu Xiaoyun's master. She seemed to treat Mu Xiaoyun nicely, so Yemo stopped. The blue-robed woman stopped too, as she clearly knew that she was no match for Yemo. Yemo? You can't fight with martial sister Nanshuang. She offended a lot of people to stop Mu Xiaoyun from being saint. I don't know what happened later on, but I'm certain she didn't do anything wrong. Lan Qilan said genuinely. Wan Nanshuang looked at Lan Clan in confusion. Qilan, how did you come out? I cut her chains. Yemo said with a bit of embarrassment. He was planning to kill this woman when she was protecting Xiaoyun. Lan Qilan sighed. It has nothing to do with Yemo. I want to as the sect leader. Our immortal goddess sacred sect is no longer a divine sect. Even if the great sun god mountain attacks us, at most we die. What we're doing won't be approved by our martial ancestor and Saint Qing. Yemo was apologetic, but now wasn't the time for this. He quickly said, I'll be going first. I'll come to apologize later. Then, he instantly charged up the immortal goddess peak. The two didn't even have a time to stop her. Wan Nanshuang just wanted to stop Yemo, but Lan Qilan said, Martial sister Nanshuang, I feel it's better to let Yemo take Xiaoyun away. I left without planning to live. If the great sun god mountain uses this excuse to attack our immortal goddess sacred sect, then there's only death. Wan Nanshuang fell silent for a long while and sighed. In the immortal goddess peak, there were all sorts of restrictions and formations squeezed together. If it was someone else, he would definitely not be able to find Xiaoyun. But Yemo was different. He was a formation grandmaster, and his spirit will 9 transformations reached level 5 realm formation. Spirit sense god art was very easy, much less spirit sense blades. Yemo's spirit sense blades tore through everywhere with spirit sense god art and damaged the peak relentlessly. The thickly covered immortal goddess peak was instantly ruined. If Jisini was here, she might fight Yemo with her life. 10 seconds later, Yemo's heart sunk. He had damaged most of the restrictions on here, but he still didn't find Xiaoyun. After looking for another while, Yemo got the conclusion that Mu Xiaoyun was not here. Yemo's killing intense sword. Clearly, the immortal goddess sacred sect people moved Xiaoyun away because they knew he was here. Then don't blame him for slaughtering this place. So what if there was a Tao Essence Divine Emperor? He didn't believe a Tao Essence Divine Emperor could do anything to him. If he can't beat her, he can run. He would slaughter everywhere until the immortal goddess sacred sect gave Xiaoyun. Yemo damaging the restrictions of the immortal goddess peak immediately caught the attention of Jisini. She looked from afar and was shaking with anger. Since when was the immortal goddess sacred sect abused to this degree? She clearly sensed what Yemo was doing too. Her face looked bad. She was indeed concerned with Yemo, but this didn't mean Yemo could be this rude at the immortal goddess sacred sect. Just when Jisini wanted everyone to surround the immortal goddess peak and take Yemo down, a gray figure stumbled in. Yunhui. Jisini looked dazedly at this woman. It was Yunhui who dropped to Tao molding divine emperor. She dazed because she saw that Yunhui lost her virginity, and this was not long ago. She even has a sliver of male chi on her. Ji noticed this too, and clearly all the other divine emperors did. At this moment, this place was silent. Yunhui hated women who lost their virginity he most, but now she did too, and she came back to the immortal goddess sacred sect. Seeing the divine emperors stare at her, Yunhui wanted to dig a hole in the ground. In order to flee back to the immortal goddess sacred sect quickly, she used a transmission rune, but there were so many divine emperors gathered here. Ji saw Yunhui's predicament but didn't ask her about it. She yelled, "Trap the immortal goddess peak and kill ye." Yunhui just realized that there was trouble at the sect. Before she could ask, a divine emperor she was close to sound transmission to her. A man charged into out sect. It said he's Xiaoyun's Dao partner. This person had killed Heian already and is now on the immortal goddess peak. Then, she even showed Yimo's looks to Yunhui. It's him. Yunhui dazed a moment and charged at the immortal goddess peak like mad. She was heavily injured by Yimo, and then a half-divine stole her virginity. Now that Yimo was here, how could she let him go? Seeing this, the other divine emperors chased over too. Yimo charged out of the peak hurriedly. Xiaoyun wasn't here, and the person who most likely took her away was Ji or the sect leader. As soon as Yimo charged out of the residence of the saint on the peak, he felt a sliver of familiar chi. Instantly, Yimo realized that chi was the necklace he made for Xiaoyun. It was a long time ago, but it was still something he made. Yimo rejoiced like mad. If the necklace was here, it meant that Xiaoyun was here. He charged in here too desperately and didn't notice this chi. These immortal goddess sacred sect people were indeed cunning. They hid Xiaoyun outside the peak restriction, a blind spot of his search. Yimo's spirit sense didn't ravage here as he saw more than 10 divine emperor charge up. The leading one was Yunhui, but she was now Dao molding divine emperor. Yunhui's heart was filled with hatred, but when she saw Yimo hack Zisu over, she realized she was far from a match for Yimo, much less her power had dropped to Dao molding divine emperor now. Yimo's divine emperor domain expanded out like crazy. A purple lightning shot out, bringing out 100 kilometers of purple ray lethal force. Yunhui was defenseless. She didn't even have time to release the 108 wind fire sand and was completely covered by the purple sword ray. Death loomed over her. She had completely lost the will to defend. She looked dazedly as the purple ray sliced across the heaven. At the last moment, she was actually thinking about the man who pressed her under him. A blood light flashed, making the divine emperors and Ji stop. They both looked at this splashed blood in shock. A Dao nourishment divine emperor of the immortal goddess sacred sect died this easily to Yimo. Our immortal goddess sacred sect will fight you to death. Ji yelled crazily. Her will 5 color cloth was thrown out. 5 lights smashed at Yimo. Yimo felt that his Zisu was about to leave his contro. Yimo was very shocked. Seeing Yimo kill Yunhui and the sect leader attack Yimo like crazy, the rest of the divine emperors released their magic artifact and attacked Yimo. Wang Nanshuang, who came later, also joined the battle. She let out a messenger flying sword and also released her lotus stand. Yimo faced more than 10 divine emperors, and there were 3 Dao actualization divine emperors amongst them. No matter how strong Yimo's domain was, it couldn't stop the combined domain of more than 10 divine emperors. His domain was instantly torn open. Yimo spat a few mouthfuls of essence blood. The 36 lightning orbs turned into an endless lightning abyss and spread out. The countless magic artifacts smashed on the lightning barrier. Every time the lightning orbs were attacked, Yimo would receive backlash. If it wasn't that his body was too strong, those backlash would be enough to make his soul disappear. Even so, Yimo kept spitting blood, and the lightning orb barrier became shaky and could be smashed to pieces at any time. Yimo really wanted to counterattack, but it was extremely hard for him to even defend himself. A red axe broke Yimo's lightning barrier and hacked towards Yimo's waist, but Yimo didn't seem to see it and smashed 2 great primordial god runes at Ji. If he wanted to counterattack, he would have to get injured. This was unavoidable. Plus, Yimo risked his life to attack Ji because he sensed Mu Xiaoyun's soul on Ji. Yimo immediately thought that this was how Ji subjugated Mu Xiaoyun to do anything she wanted. Or if Mu Xiaoyun wanted to suicide, Ji would know at any time. Knowing this, how could Yi Mo still stay sane? My Tao, great primordial, the primordial of form. Great primordial God rune. Tear apart the world and destroy all existence. The clearly visible runes twisted the space between Yi Mo and Ji Sini. It had this world-breaking force that loomed over Ji Sini. All space bindings, divine emperor domains were like bubbles to these two runes. Great primordial God rune. Ji Sini called out in shock but found that she couldn't move one bit. When Yi Mo was only an immortal emperor, he used two great primordial God runes to kill Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor Bian Xinda. Now that Yi Mo reached Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor, his great primordial God rune was even stronger. Splurge. A blood light flashed from Yi Mo's waist that almost cut Yi Mo in half. There was clear bone cracking sound, but Yi Mo didn't even look at it. Yi Mo, stop, Mu Xiaoyun is taken by the great sun god mountain people. Why don't you go get her? If you keep staying here, do you still want her to live? Ji, she said quickly. This was what the immortal goddess sacred sect planned already. A few magic artifact lights struck the two great primordial god runes, tweezing it even more, but it didn't seem as scary as before. Ji Sini finally eased up a bit. Her figure distorted slightly. Splurge. Another two blood light flashed out, but this time it wasn't just Yi Mo's blood. One of it was Ji Sini's blood. Half of her body was hacked off by the two great primordial god rune. Yi Mo raised his hand and grabbed out a soul lamp from that half of the body. She barely stopped the second rune with her cloth. But the cloth dimmed down due to that rune. The second blood light came from Yi Mo. She's 9 lotus stands sliced through Yi Mo's shoulder. Even though Yi Mo was immortal god body and the lotus stand was blocked by the 36 orbs once, Yi Mo's arm was still sliced open. Due to him being immortal goddess peak stage, his arm didn't break. This all happened in the blink of an eye. The moment Yi Mo grabbed the soul lamp, 2 more beams shot at his chest. Yi Mo knew that if he stayed here he would await death. No matter how strong he was no match for this many people. When I kill the great sun god mountain people and save Xiaowen, I will come back for you all. Yi Mo took the 36 lightning orbs and instant transmissioned away. Master. She immediately came to Ji Sini, helping her connect her body while sending a few pills into her mouth. A few people were going to hunt Yi Mo, but Ji Sini said, no one chase after this person. Those few divine emperors immediately woke up. Yi Mo was going to hunt the great sun god mountain people. Even if Yi Mo wasn't heavily injured, it was suicide. Even if Yi Mo didn't die, killing the great sun god mountain people was only good for the immortal goddess sacred sect. The divine emperors glanced at Ji Shi in respect. Ji Shi sent the messenger flying sword clearly to let the great sun god mountain people leave first. Wang Nanshuang and Lan Qilan looked at the bloodied ground and was speechless. This was a battle where both sides were heavily injured. Yi Mo wouldn't be able to recover if he didn't have top god spirit items. The immortal goddess sacred sect lost a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor, and even the sect leader was almost killed. Ji Sini's body was connected, but it was now probably impossible for her to reach Tao Essence Divine Emperor. Threw that Mu Xiaoyun into the depth of the prison door mountain. One Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor said, "That's certain death. I think we might as well give her to the great sun god mountain. Regardless if Yi Mo lives or not, let him go to the great sun god mountain to find his Tao partner." Another Tao molding divine emperor said. Ji Sini said slowly, Mu Xiaoyun is dead for sure. When Yi Mo chases out, send her to the great sun god mountain. Lan Qilan opened her mouth and found that she couldn't say anything. She didn't know whether to help Mu Xiaoyun or agree to the sect leader. Lan Qilan, you're quite amazing. You were locked up at the prison door mountain. How can you still appear here? When Yi Mo killed our divine emperor, what did you do? The Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor sneered. Lan Qilan went up and bowed to Ji Sini. Please punish me, sect leader. My sins are great. Martial sister Qilan didn't come out herself. Yi Mo forcefully cut open her chains. Wang Nanshuang said coldly. Ji Sini glanced at Wang Nanshuang and said to Lan Qilan, leave. From today on, you're no longer a member of the immortal goddess sacred sect. Lan Qilan's face went pale, but she didn't rebuke. The immortal goddess sacred sect was the #1 sect in the divine Tao realm, but now she was kicked out. Leave, let's go to the main palace and discuss things. As soon as Yemo leaves the immortal goddess sacred sect, close the sect formation. Jisini said. Those divine emperors close to Lan Qilan shook, but no one dared to say a thing. Master, I'll go with you. Luo Biyue heard this and said immediately. Lan Qilan sighed and nodded. Okay. Let's leave together. No one knew that Yemo didn't chase out. Instead, he came to the prison door mountain and was here to recover. She tried to trick him to fight the Great Sun God Mountain, but he wasn't dumb. He wasn't going to let Great Sun God Mountain go for wanting to sacrifice Mu Xiaoyun, but now, he was certain Mu Xiaoyun was still at the Immortal Goddess Peak. In a distant corner at the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect, a white-haired woman sat on a dark stone cushion with a sad face. This white-faced woman was the Tao Essence Divine Emperor Jisini asked for help. But her body below her knees had disappeared. Even her upper body lost an arm. If it wasn't to give the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect a sliver of hope, she would have went into samsara already. Perhaps I should really go. After a while, the white-haired woman murmured. Whether it was the Great Sun God Mountain Divine Emperor being cocky at the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect or what Yemo did, nothing could be hidden from her, but there was nothing she could do. Everyone knew that there was Tao Essence Divine Emperor at the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect, but no one knew that this Tao Essence Divine Emperor was a being that couldn't even fight. Yemo's injuries were far from recovered, but he snuck into the Immortal Goddess Peak. All tough, he was still heavily injured. The Chaos Tree kept healing him. He rushed back so quickly because he knew he had to take Xiaoyun away quickly or he might never find her again. Yemo had seen the foundation of the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. There was a Tao Essence Divine Emperor in the dark and these Divine Emperors. Yemo knew that when the Divine Emperors gained up on him, not many actually dealt killing blows to him. It was just Jisini and a few Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor or he wouldn't be able to escape at all. They only attacked with full power after he cut half of Jisini's body. One could see that Yunhui wasn't really liked in the sect. He killed her, but not many people hated him. Those divine emperors attacked only when he heavily injured Jisini. She only attacked after that too. The Immortal Goddess Peak had no one to guard now and Yemo easily came to the place of the battle again. He let out his spirit sense and in just a few seconds, he found that sliver of familiarity. Yemo found an ordinary stone, but it was actually a natural dimension. There was also a natural stealth formation on it. If it wasn't that Yemo sensed the chi from the necklace he made, he wouldn't be able to find this stone. Yemo didn't use spirit sense blades to cut open this stone but just took out a few formation flags. Then, a huge black door appeared before Yemo. Yemo went in and found a stone bed inside. Mu Xiaoyun slept on the bed with a frown. Clearly, her senses were sealed. Yemo looked at Mu Xiaoyun, who was separated from him since the small world, and felt his nose go sour. He stepped over and carried Mu Xiaoyun. Xiaoyun, I'm here. Yemo's heart was complicated. Even with his Tao vindication power, he couldn't calm his heart. Susu, Qingxue, Jingguan and Yangzhu all had his help for cultivation. Mu Xiaoyun was the only one he didn't help at all. At most, he gave her a primordial chaos chant. Yemo could even imagine how much torture and longing Mu Xiaoyun went through to come from the cultivation realm to the immortal realm and then the divine Tao realm. He knew that in Mu Xiaoyun's world, he was her world. Xiaoyun, stay with me from now on. Let's go back with Jingguan, Susu, Qingxue and Yangzhu. Let's never be separated again. Yemo murmured. Xiaoyun's frown gradually eased up. Yemo didn't remove her restriction and just put her in the Golden Page world. To him, he had to leave the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect quickly. After finding Xiaoyun, half of his hatred towards the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect was gone. Yemo left the stone dimension and put away his formation flags before dashing towards the exit of the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect. In the main palace of the Immortal Goddess Sacred Sect, all the divine emperors were gathered here. There was actually 31 people. In a place desolate of God spirit chi and resources, a sect actually had 31 Tao vindication divine emperors. This was very amazing. At the main palace, the place seemed dejected. It wasn't that their power was weakened but their spirit. Emo ravaged the sect but only killed a Tao molding divine emperor and a Tao nourishment divine emperor. This was nothing important to the immortal goddess sacred sect. But the immortal goddess sacred sect's belief was separated today. Their belief was broken. They were symbolic of the divine Tao realm, but now, they were confused and bewildered by the things they did. Emo has left the sect. Yuaha. Open the sect formation and seal the sect. Jisini was still extremely weak. When Emo left the sect, he didn't stealth himself at all. Sect leader, we've invited many divine emperors to visit our saint prayer ceremony. If we seal the sect, then... One Tao nourishment divine emperor said. Jisini sighed and said slowly, go explain to them that the great sun god mountain that had hid for countless years suddenly emerged. They want to control the entire divine Tao realm. The immortal goddess sacred sect didn't allow them, and they used the ceremony to kill our saint and a few divine emperors. Everyone immediately realized that with this any divine emperor would side with the immortal goddess sacred sect. Perhaps people would join up to attack the great sun god mountain immediately or rally to them to attack the great sun god mountain. If they want to attack the great sun god mountain and wants us to join, we... The Tao nourishment divine emperor asked. Jisini said, the great sun god mountain has nefarious intentions and our sect is symbolic of the divine Tao realm. How can we fall behind on such matter? I understand. This Tao nourishment divine emperor immediately dashed away. The palace fell into silence. There was a sliver of pain in Wang Nanshuang's eyes. She really didn't want to trick those ordinary divine emperors. Even if they attacked the great sun god mountain, it would be suicide. They would at most use up some of great sun god mountain's power. Jisini clearly didn't want the sect to take the great sun god mountain head on. Lenyu, I just you to tell that great sun god mountain Tao actualization divine emperor that our sect will immediately send the saint over. Why did you let him take an immortal goddess? Ji-Shi frowned at another Tao nourishment divine emperor. Jisini interrupted Ji-Shi. This has nothing to do with Lenyu. I let Lenyu give Banyan over. If we don't give them a saint, how can the great sun god mountain leave? If he doesn't leave, how will Emo chase him? Master, you gave the Saint Qing's necklace the Zhu sinew to the great sun god mountain? Ji-Shi asked shakily. If one didn't stay on the immortal goddess peak, she wouldn't have the Saint Qi. The only thing with a sliver of Saint Qi was the Saint Qing's necklace. Now that the sect leader said giving a saint to the great sun god mountain, clearly, she gave the Zhu sinew away. Jisini sighed. This is a moment of life or death for our sect. I've let Rurong chase over. If the great sun god mountain Tao actualization divine emperor fights with Emo, it would be fine. If Emo wins, Rurong will kill Emo and take back the Zhu sinew. If the great sun god mountain person wins, Rurong will still kill that person and take it back. Emo had released the space-time boat and left the range of the immortal goddess sacred sect. Half a day later, Emo was planning to stop at a place and went the Golden Page world to wake Mu Xiaoyun up when a powerful spirit sense suddenly scanned over and fell on Emo for a while before suddenly moving over. Emo stopped now. He had been out of the immortal goddess sacred sect for more than half a day, so his injuries had pretty much recovered. To him, as long as his essence spirit and sea of consciousness weren't heavily injured, he could recover extremely quickly. Not bad. If I came and you didn't stop, then it wouldn't be good. This Tao actualization divine emperor looked at Emo and said. The condescension on his eyes were clear. Emo asked calmly, what do you want with me? Emo knew who this person was. This Tao actualization divine emperor had an immortal goddess who had similar chi to Ji-Shi. This immortal goddess was just an immortal emperor and her eyes seemed sad. Without needing to ask, Emo knew this Tao actualization divine emperor was from Great Sun God Mountain. If he trusted Ji-Shi that the Great Sun God Mountain people took Xiaoyun, then he definitely wouldn't be able to save Xiaoyun now. The Tao actualization divine emperor's tone became a little cold. I'm the elder of the Great Sun God Mountain. I think you're not bad. If you're willing, I can take you to join the Great Sun God Mountain. The Great Sun God Mountain was about to go to war with the immortal goddess sacred sect. It was good to take in as much immortal emperor pawns like Emo as possible. Not interested, Emo said calmly. He was ready to attack. Our great sun god mountain is about to become the #1 sect of the divine Tao realm, and we will repair the divine Tao realm. It's your fortune to join the great sun god mountain. When the divine Tao realm is repaired, you will get a sliver of the fortune and karma. You can even reach Tao vindication. The Tao actualization divine emperor said seriously. Piss off. Emo couldn't be bothered talking to this guy anymore. At the same time, he released Zissou. Hearing this, the Tao actualization divine emperor was furious, but he was even more furious that Emo attacked first. Emo's Zissou had turned into a 100 kilometers long purple dragon that smashed down. The immortal goddess was swept by Emo's divine emperor domain and flew back tens of km. At the same time, the Tao actualization divine emperor released a huge spear. There were fire dragons circulating around the spear that melted everything nearby immediately. Emo sneered. Talk about playing with fire. Rumble, the purple dragon smashed with the black flame dragon that tore their domains to pieces. The purple dragon crippled, but so was the flame dragon. You're not an immortal emperor. The Tao actualization divine emperor realized. Emo definitely wasn't an immortal emperor. How could an immortal emperor take the blow of a Tao actualization divine emperor? Even if you're not an immortal emperor, you have to die today. The Tao actualization divine emperor was furious. Seeing Yemo's Zissou could stop his black flame spear, he was interested. Plus, Yemo's flying magic artifact wasn't bad too. The spear swept out a 30 kilometers long flame dragon that completely swept the nearby space. The flame dragon swirled in the air, activating a dominating force that was about to burn everything nearby. If it was some other time, Yemo would definitely use 5-stack wave kill to fight with this person, but now, he didn't have the mood. Yemo went forward a step and waved out tens of hand signs. God Art Ice Space. The countless flame dragons seemed to have been frozen. When the space cracked, the flame dragons were completely torn. Cracks sounded non-stop in the space and frozen flame pieces fell down. The endless heat wave disappeared. What remained was terrifying frost. What god art is this? The Tao actualization divine emperor looked at this in disbelief. Emo waved out another god art. The sky didn't seem as cold before. The space seemed to slow down before eventually pausing. Not good, this was time law god art. The Tao actualization divine emperor was finally shook. He didn't expect a random immortal emperor he saw here mastered time law and had such terrifying god art. At this moment, his soul almost left his body due to shock. He forcefully burned his essence chi and broke free from Yemo's instant second god art. As soon as they clashed, he had an extreme lower hand. He didn't dare to think of Yemo as an insect anymore. The black fire spear whined, and before he could attack Yemo again, 2 distorted runes came before him. Great Primordial God Rune. Seeing these 2 runes, the Tao actualization divine emperor's eyes became red. He punched out Eagle Emperor Fist. This was his killing blow. Ripples formed in space with this punch. This punch bound this entire space, but then brought this bound space and smashed onto the 2 great primordial god runes. Rumble. Crack crack. This fist force smashed on the first rune, and this bound space dissipated in the distorted great primordial god rune. The second great primordial god rune tore the fist to pieces and extended down. In the blink of an eye, it reached down into his arm and then shoulder. Crack. In an explosion, half the body of this Tao actualization divine emperor exploded. This Tao actualization divine emperor was scared soulless and didn't dare to keep fighting Yemo. He dashed away quickly. Yemo sneered, and the golden bow of divine extermination appeared in his hands. He flung out 2 golden arrows. The Tao actualization divine emperor just flew out 10,000 kilometers and was locked on by this lethal force. He didn't dare to move a step as he knew all the life force around him had been taken away. Shoo shoo. These 2 golden rays instantly came behind the Tao actualization divine emperor and tore open his divine emperor domain. The Tao actualization divine emperor could only use his remaining hand to grab an arrow. The only person Yemo had seen who could stop the golden bone arrow was the Truth Divine Emperor. Yemo was still shocked even now. Truth Divine Emperor was so much stronger than ordinary Tao actualization Divine Emperor, and that was him without any magic artifact. The golden bone arrow blasted the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor's hands. The next moment, the second arrow came and turned this Tao Actualization Divine Emperor to pieces. EMO took the 2 golden bone arrows and a storage ring and stared at a dashing Tao Actualization Divine Emperor woman but didn't chase her.